All right, everybody, welcome in. My name is Carah Burrell. Sometimes I go by Nuancehoe. We need to talk about Tim Ballard. I am actually really fired up today. I'm crashing out about Tim's crash out, about what he said in his latest video. So if you're new to this channel, Tim Ballard, he is the human embodiment of weaponized narcissism, dressed up as a child's rescue mission. He's a holy war LARPing demagogue with a persecution kink, and he's now launching this obnoxious crusade against the Mormon Church. Hey, I got problems with the church, but we need to talk about what he is specifically revealing in his latest video. Stepping on the backs of victims, real survivors, all of it really makes me sick. So stay tuned for that. And he's going to sue the LDS Church. He's going to sue the arms of the media corporations of the LDS Church. Meanwhile, the world is drowning in all these horrific revelations from the Epstein files, from actual sex trafficking survivors, from people screaming into a void with nobody giving a damn. And Tim hasn't said one word about them. The guy who says that this is his main mission in life doesn't actually care about real victims. He's not out supporting and organizing for any survivors. He's not naming the billionaires. He's not, naming intelligence agencies or financial elite douche bros who enabled Epstein for decades. He's not fighting for policy change or oversight of victims and getting any kind of restitution. No, he is busy filming himself, ranting about heavenly voices, telling him to sell merch and write movie scripts about his sexual assault accusers. That's the kind of guy we're talking about today. And this man has the nerve to posture as the voice for the voiceless, that if you give him money, he will save the kids, while simultaneously ignoring every actual child, every woman, every survivor who doesn't benefit from his personal mythology, from his personal script that he's writing. So it makes me sick. It's unbelievable that this is the point of American entrepreneurial victim capitalism, when survivors of actual sex trafficking, of, Epstein, of politicians, CEOs, global elites, when those things actually exist, the exact kind of system and corruption that Tim Ballard claims to fight is right here out in the open. Does he show up? No, because if he tries to actually do anything to help victims, he can't cast himself as the lead in that story. He can't insert a psychic or a fake operation or the couple's ruse so he can allegedly assault women. So there's no dramatic jungle rescue for him to film himself in. So instead, he spends his time attacking the Mormon Church, claiming that they're doing all of these cover-ups, that there's these RICO conspiracies, there's election meddling, there's satanic rings, all because they released a PR statement stating that Tim did immoral things, and that is something that there's abundant proof of. There's semen on his assistant's skirt, just to name one. So this deep state fan fiction author, trapped inside his own screenplay, can't produce a single document, not one time-stamped email, but he can film a 40-minute breakdown rant day after day about he's the most persecuted man by the Mormon Church and in America. So if you think Tim is some whistleblower, if you think that he is out there to take on the deep state, he is he's a grifter within the deep state. He's a spiritualized grifter is what he is. He's crying martyrdom because that is the only branding move that he has left. Real survivors, they don't need Tim's ranting. Real children don't need Tim's performative, savioral, industrial complex influencer type posts, right? Real victims don't need another grifter who uses their trauma for his own fundraising. So today we're going all the way in. We're laying exactly everything out on the table that you need to know, how Tim has exposed himself, hopefully not physically, as somebody who cares more about saving his brand than ever saving a human life. So let's begin. All right, Ryan, welcome my co-host to the show, the amazing Ryan Fisher. Go ahead and introduce yourself again and bring us up to speed on where we're at today. Thanks for being here.
That was what got to be the best intro you've ever done. You've done a lot of good intros.
I told you, make sure you know, Angry Carah is here today. Just everything with the Epstein victims right now. I'm like, I care about victims more than Tim Ballard does. And he's the guy. You're the guy, dude.
Yeah, he's the guy. But you absolutely nailed it. Everything. I have absolutely nothing to add to that intro. If anybody hears anything to describe who Tim Ballard is, just post that intro on Shorts, please, because that's absolutely hit the nail on the head, as if you knew him for his entire life. So, good job. That was cool. Yeah, I guess I should give a quick 30-second background on me. I worked with Tim for 6 years. I was the first one to platform him on a TV show of mine. I was in meetings with him and Elder Ballard, high up officials of the LDS Church. I had the front row seat to the rise of this guy. And I fell victim to his ruse as well. I got behind his cause. I got behind trying to save children and also advance some of the religious ideas, religious propaganda and extremism that he was pushing at the time. But I've woken up out of the cult mentality that I was in, as have a lot of other people. And so I'm here to try and undo the harm that he's done and use my dedication, the dedication of many others to build him up, including the dedication of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who built him up more than anyone else. He used that for alleged criminal activity, hurt a lot of people, alleged broke up a lot of families, and pulled a great ruse over the entire American people with the Sound of Freedom movie, which was a almost complete fictional movie about himself to build his brand, like you're identifying. And now he's trying to rescue that brand through some absolute wild claims of trying to find a new crusade that will brand him as a religious crusader, as a righteous guy, a called servant of God. I mean, we're going into like religious manipulation, like on a level that I haven't seen come from any other public figure probably in my lifetime. So yeah, this is applicable to anybody that is susceptible to religious manipulation, which we all are. And once you see it in him, then hopefully you'll be able to apply this to others that are trying to use you and your passion for your religion, passion for helping humanity, and be able to put it behind people that are real, not people that are trying to exploit you for their own purpose and their own money, which is what Tim Ballard is. So
Bingo.
We'll get into it.
Bingo. Yeah, great introduction. Thank you everyone for being here. Podcast that me and Ryan do, and it is called Timmy Did What? All right. You know the drill, everybody. Like, subscribe, do all the things that I as a YouTuber have to tell you guys to do, like to keep our lights on, to keep everything working on this podcast. We make this podcast because we're passionate about it in all the ways that Ryan just said. We care about the victims and we care about getting the truth out there. So if you want to donate, there are links down below. We have a Venmo, we have a Patreon, and we have a donor box. You can do reoccurring donations. The donor box is also connected to my nonprofit, which is a 501c3, so that any donations are tax deductible in the United States. So just start typing in numbers and just let your heart tell you when to stop and send that our way. We'll be so grateful. Thank you to all the people who are tuning in live right now. Thank you to our donors. If you can just leave a comment, that helps the algorithm out a lot. Thank you everyone for being here. And we already have our first super chat. I'll go ahead and read that now. Paisley said, "Y'all are amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing to expose this fraud. Hero status, both of y'all. Keep fighting." Thank you so much for the $50. That is amazing. That'll go so far. Really appreciate that. All right. Any more questions that you want to leave during this live? We will throw them up on screen as best we can. A super chat ensures that you will get that read out on screen. So the level of the delusion that we're dealing here with this video from Tim, it's actually pretty astronomical. It is QAnon Mad Libs. Wouldn't you agree, Ryan? You thought QAnon was over and dead. This is a new lie-ridden rant from Tim, comes out almost every day. So in this new video, Tim launches into this story where he is basically further explaining in the second part of this documentary about how the deep church, Mormon Church, is trying to take him down. And obviously, because he wants to save kids, it has nothing to do with his sexual misconduct and wanting to distance themselves like any $300 billion corporation would actually want to do. But he gets a call saying, Tim, you're too powerful. They're never going to let you run for Senate. So without any further ado, we can just launch into the first clip. Yeah. Anything else?
No, launch into it. Let's show people what he's about.
All right.
Received a phone call saying, Tim, they're not going to let you run for Senate. They're not going to let you win. They're not going to let you implement the Sound of Freedom Act. There's too much at stake here. And $10 million, he said, had been sent to destroy my life. I said, what will it look like? He says, I don't know, but it'll be a bag of bricks.
Fired the first shots.
I've been asked to testify under oath. I know these things are true. What I tell you is documented. How far did it go? Who's involved? I'm going to name names, okay? I have no choice at this point because I would be under condemnation from our Savior if I did not. These people used his name in vain and hurt children. I can't imagine anything that would offend our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ more than this, but they did it, and they continue to do it to this day. Everything I'm telling you, they already know, and they've chosen not to even respond, which is why I have to respond.
Thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah. So this is his reasoning that he's been pushing this entire time. His fallback default position is anytime anybody criticizes him personally or calls out his bad behavior personally, they're doing it because they're trying to hurt children. That's his logic. I mean, he's taken this point from 3 miles over there and trying to connect it here. And so now he's applying that same rationale to the Mormon Church, came out with a statement denouncing him and his immoral behavior because they want to hurt children, and they knowingly want to hurt children, and they're going to hurt children by denouncing him and drying up his funding source. That's what he wants us to believe, as if he's the sole savior of children around the world. And that is like the biggest load of BS, because I'll give you a personal firsthand account. When I was with Tim and friends with him, when he was working for the Department of Homeland Security in the capacity of human trafficking, he left the government position. He could have stayed there with all the government resources at his disposal. He was making 6 figures and a good paying job. But he left that government position to start his own nonprofit doing the same thing, supposedly the same thing that the DHS was doing with human trafficking. The only difference is he had 0 government resources, and he now was free to raise as much money as he wanted for himself and his own organization. And so if he expects us to believe that he is the sole savior of children, then that line, and we believe that, then that line of reasoning that the Mormon Church wants to hurt children by denouncing him, that's just laughable to me. I don't know. I don't know why he's still sticking with that. I can't believe that people still believe that, but they do. You look at his comments on his social media on this post, and people are like, we support you, Tim. We never believe the allegations. Keep fighting the good fight. The children need you. Stuff like that. As sad as it is.
Right. And it just occurred to me, if he really wanted to help children, couldn't he just like join ICE again? Like, isn't that his whole thing? Like, Department of Homeland Security? Why doesn't he just go back and go join ICE? He can just go back to his old job and he can go save kids and do all of the work that he thinks is helpful in that respect, couldn't he?
Yeah, well, I don't think he could, because I have been told by sources that his boss, one of his boss, I believe his name is John Lyons, who worked at DHS and ended up in some capacity helping with OUR. Well, I shouldn't say, because I don't want to put out something there that I can't verify. But I'll just leave it at this, that there is a lot of rumors out there that he sucked at his job and that he couldn't pass some important tests to actually be a field agent, but he was more or less a paper pusher or answering phone calls, and wasn't in charge or running investigations. And some people have told me that, and this is speculation, or I guess rumors, that he couldn't do his job at DHS, and he saw the writing on the wall, and so he tried to leverage the title of investigator or special agent or what himself to a nonprofit, that then he could get people who would not find accountability in what he was doing, that he could keep everything under wraps and raise money that way. So I'm hoping that the people that worked with him, and there's at least 2 people I know of that worked with him at DHS, and even a friend of mine that came forward recently, will come forward with their testimonies on why he had to leave DHS, and he had like very little career prospects going that way. So yeah.
So this idea that he puts out in The Sound of Freedom, that like he had this calling from God, and that there's all this government red tape, and he had to go and fight for the kids against all odds, and use this backing of his knowledge and his experience in the CIA and DHS, is just more of his myth making, is what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't want to say that he didn't believe that he was called of God, because what you see in all of these, there's like, I think there's a Nazi general who said, or a propaganda minister that says, if you tell a lie long enough, you'll believe it. And he's been weaving this narrative about himself for so many years that he believes it. I really do think he believes that he was called a God. I think he believes that when he was high on ketamine, that he actually talked with people on the other side. He told me personally, back in probably 2013, 2014, that he believes that Abraham Lincoln was in the room when he was writing the Lincoln hypothesis and telling him or inspiring him, giving the real story behind Abraham Lincoln checking out the Book of Mormon and using that as inspiration for conducting the Civil War and things like that. So he believes that he is some sort of savior of mankind, savior of children, and being led by God. Doesn't mean that that's true. And I think a great observation was given to that extent by the Davis County attorney, who conducted an investigation that was given to Sean Reyes and into fraud allegations for Tim. He said in I'm going to paraphrase his comment, but he said to the press on one occasion that just because somebody claims they're working for God doesn't mean you should give them their money, that they actually are, and you should give them their money, something along those lines. And so, yeah, it's a spiritual grift. It's a fundraising grift, and it's worked so well in the past. He's sticking with those talking points, but it's not working as well as he hopes and needs right now.
And as we've discussed before, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, both you and I are former members of such church. They're kind of in this predicament now, because as much as Tim says, I'm not attacking a thing you love, I'm attacking a thing that you hate, Mormons are put in a position where, where does their money go? Where does their devotion go? Like, Tim is splitting the hairs right down the line of like, do you pay your 10% tithing to the church and also donate to Tim Ballard, who is spending his days attacking the church? Like, people are starting to pick a side with more and more of his crazy revelations. We got a comment here that I just want to make sure is super clear. Are you showing new videos of Timmy? Yes. So he's been releasing weekly videos of this documentary called Backfire. And this is the second drop. So they look the same, and he repeats himself, but there are new, more insane revelations that he talks about. In this one, I think he absolutely tells on himself more than ever before in this specific video. So please stay tuned. Okay. Any other super chats? Oh, darn it. I'll just read this one. Carah, I love you. Appreciate you both. Thank you. Love you back. Timmy needs money. He's playing the blame game. He's no hero. exactly. I'm glad that it's
Mhm.
getting obvious. The church can't take down someone who has taken down themselves. Duh. Yep, precisely. Well said. Okay. And
Mhm.
if you go over to like Tim's Facebook too, it's just rant after rant.
I'm looking around. Where's it going to come from? What's going to happen? In the meantime, I have to go to Boston because I am there, ironically, to preach and teach about the Book of Mormon, how it complements American history and the message of the covenants on the world, on the land of the house of Israel. And I am there. And it's September 14th. And I get an email from Vice Magazine, who had been hounding me for years. And they send me this note. It's a quote from a man named Doug Anderson, a man who I will sue into oblivion. I read this lie. It's so dishonest, it's laughable. It says that I used Elder Ballard's name in vain, the man who I just spoke to weeks earlier, that I used his name in vain to do immoral things.
Yeah, let me comment on this. When he found out, when the Vice News article hit, he issued a response right away, and he's standing at the monument to our forefathers in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I know that because I created a LLC and a business for running the American Covenant Tour, and invited Tim to be part of that before he had even before he was famous or anything, before he had done anything. He was just publishing his book. He had just published his book, and I made him known on my TV show, and fans of my TV show that found out about him and liked the book. I created a tour company that would take people on this American history tour, where we talk about the miracles and the inspiring things that happened in American history. And our first stop was Plymouth, Massachusetts, right there near Plymouth Rock, at the monument to our forefathers. And he's standing there talking about irony. I had tried for 3 years at that point or maybe 5, to completely write him out of my mind, because he stole my business documents and the whole company, and pushed me out and took all my money in my bank account. And that's a story in another video that I won't go into. And so I found it absolutely ironic that he was standing there learning about how the church had betrayed him in the very place, on the very tour that he betrayed me personally on. And so karma's, you know what? And I think he deserves every bit of criticism and denouncement that he's gotten so far. So I just had to put that in there.
Ooh.
But also he got people's phones out and issued a response saying that none of it is true. None of this is true. As if he knows. And we now know that it's all true. The church did denounce him. It is all true. And so he was wrong then, but he doesn't want to talk about how he was wrong. He was projecting what he wants the truth to be. So he's standing at that monument. We've seen the video. I think he plays it later, maybe in this video. And he points to everybody's phones. He's like, what you're hearing, nothing you're hearing is true.
Yeah.
It all was true, but he projects what he wants the truth to be, even though it's the opposite of reality. And if you just know that one thing about him, then you know everything you need to know about him.
Exactly. He's got he claims there's documents coming out. He has claim after claim after claim, all of these unnamed people, all these unnamed sources. Everything is Jesus's name is being used in vain. Well, he's using Jesus's name in vain. He's using the trauma of children for his own purposes in vain. I don't know if Jesus keeps a spreadsheet for this sort of thing, or he just relies on whistleblowers to tell us whose names are in vain and who is using his name properly. But I don't think that Tim Ballard's monologue screaming in Boston is the way that Jesus is blessing his organization. So yeah, he says that he needs to go to Boston in this, and he is preaching about the Book of Mormon. He's making it very clear to his audience what he wants them to believe is that he's a patriot American on this tour preaching about the Book of Mormon and American history, two topics which famously have a very straightforward relationship with reality, sarcasm included there. While he's there, as Ryan says, on September 14th, Vice emails Tim Ballard, and Vice emails Tim Ballard, and he can't believe that this quote that the church says about his denouncement is actually true. So what is he actually doing on camera right now? He is putting out a narrative that he is desperate for his audience, especially his LDS audience, to believe about him in a city that he's hoping would finally get over losing the tea and embrace him losing the plot, I guess. So next clip 4, continue.
It also said that that Tim Ballard never did any projects associated with the church.
They have made
about $4 million just in books alone with the church publication arm, Deseret Book. I spoke on their stage.
I mean, if you read this book, the Book of Mormon, if there's a couple things it wants you to know, is that angels are real.
I worked with Elder Renlin, and he won't deny this, face to face in Haiti, helping him. I worked with Elder Renlin on consulting on charitable giving, along with Sharon Eubank. I worked with Elder Bednar. He asked me to come to his office and consult on writing the dedicatory prayer for the Port-au-Prince Haiti Temple, and then invited me to be there with him. I provided security for him at the request of the security department and Elder Bednar and Elder Ballard. I think these are projects associated with the church. Don't you?
Yeah. So this is where I can back up Tim and his, it's not often he says things that are true, but all of that is entirely true. But the big project that he left out of that, besides all the book deals and everything else, is the very first one where Elder Ballard asked Tim to find Gardy, a kid who was kidnapped from church in Haiti. And Elder Ballard asked him to take on and find that kid. That was the first project that Elder Ballard and Tim joined forces on. And
I made a
at the
whole
same time,
little YouTube documentary on it. Everybody go watch it. It's the best.
Go watch it.
Go find it in my channel.
But he's not mentioning that big project, which was publicly, I mean, very well known. He talked about it in all of his fundraisers and stuff, but he's not talking about it now.
He based the Sound of Freedom movie off of it. Like he said, he combined that story with another one to make the Sound of Freedom script. The script for the movie that you constantly talk about, you're not talking about how the church gave you the impetus and the direction to go save this little boy. That seems like a big deal.
Yeah.
Why is he leaving that out?
Because the facts surrounding that whole effort, one, he never found Gardy. Two, the father is embroiled in horrific allegations with the orphanage that he ran, that there have been young women who have come forward and alleged rape by the orphanage staff and forced abortions that were reported on. And that person, and there's even somebody that has told me that there's rumors going around when Gardy was kidnapped that it may have been in retaliation for his father, Giesno, who was running an orphanage, who took kids against the wishes of their parents for his own adoption agency, selling off kids, human trafficking, in short. And that he got his kid was taken in retaliation for that. That's a rumor that's been floating out there. But the more that we peel layers of this onion back on what Foyer de Sion, the orphanage that Giesno Marty was running, and the story behind Gardy and Tim's 10-year plus effort of trying to find him using the psychic Janet Rushton, it all looks really bad, really bad. And so he's trying to distance himself from that, as obviously, because he's not talking about that very first and very big and very long, decade-long project that he was given on assignment by Elder Ballard directly, personally from the church. So he's trying to focus on these other smaller ones, but we're not going to let that go. Just need to keep putting that out in the narration, so people know that if you want to find out what Tim is all about, look into Haiti, look into that. I know there's some journalists that are investigating it, and I hope a credible journalistic organization will come forward with an in-depth investigation on Foyer de Sion and Haiti and what was going on surrounding the kidnapping of Gardy and the things that his father was up to. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point. So as Tim is ranting, he's talking about how he's done these projects for the church. He's naming them all off, and can't believe that the head of the Mormon Church's PR department, that's who he pins everything on, Doug Anderson, who he announces he's going to sue into oblivion in this clip. Okay. That's what he says in this video. And that the statement that Tim used Elder Ballard's name in vain to do immoral things, and that he never did projects associated with the church. So, despite Tim saying the church made $4 million off of his books, what does that imply? It implies that somebody somewhere is lying. Is it the $300 billion mega wealthy corporate church, or the coked up sex fiend? Who's lying? The church whose founding prophet is Joseph Smith, or the guy who can't stop acting like him? So,
well, I'll tell you from my perspective, having been involved with Tim as a business partner for 6 years and being there for OUR and being in a meeting with Elder Ballard, they're both lying. Tim is exaggerating different claims. He's lying about not using Elder Ballard's name for his own business ventures. He dropped Elder Ballard's name like it was an involuntary cough with everybody that he encountered. He'd bring it up in funny ways. He'd be talking to somebody that he's trying to impress, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, well, sorry, I'm late. I was just on the phone with Elder Ballard, and oh, what a great guy. I love him. He's such a good prophet, whatever." And he just dropped his name left and right with everybody that he wanted to impress. And so then he also used it in fundraisers. He'd drop these stories and drop names anytime he was doing fundraisers. And so he used Elder Ballard's name to advance his career left and right. And he's still doing that. He's still trying to use Elder Ballard's name
without even realizing it. It's so awkward. Tim, everyone's watching you.
I know. Everybody's watching you.
Best friend.
And he's like, I've never used Elder Ballard's name for my personal gain. By the way, we were best friends, and you should believe me because Elder Ballard believed in me, and Elder Ballard said that I was a really righteous dude. He in the very same sentence, that's what he's doing. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty obvious at this point.
It's like, how many times do you need to use an apostle's name before you get like a loyalty punch card and then you're immune to criticism? That's what Tim thinks. He's like, if I just keep showing up with my reputation card, people will keep buying it.
Yeah. Now I need to point out again that they're both lying. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints PR statement that they didn't have business endeavors, absolute, total, verifiable lie. I have emails going back to 2011, 2012 with Tim, and I was copied on so many different endeavors that it'd take me days and days to go through. I'd be happy for any of these lawsuits, any of these courts to subpoena all of my emails. They're free. Be more than willing to give you, because I have the story of everything he was about. Tim will probably want to do that because it does show a lot of the different projects and endeavors and fundraisers and the help that he was getting from everybody, including Elder Ballard's son-in-law, who ran point for him on a lot of stuff. I had emails that I came across where Tim is asking Brad Bauer if Elder Ballard's going to be able to attend this screening, and Brad's, and they're going back and forth and making arrangements and all sorts of stuff like that, like going back over a decade. And so the church is absolutely not being truthful with their description of the relationship. They're trying to distance themselves from Elder Ballard, from the church. But that when I saw that statement, that was the first time that I knew personally that the church was lying to cover up and save their reputation, to try and save the reputation.
Mhm.
Now, and that was a really interesting point for me personally in my life. I don't want to make this about me, but it had an effect on me because in September 2022 or 2023, when that statement from Vice News came out, I had a long history of being a church history tour guide, of making documentaries about church history. And there's all this controversy on whether Joseph Smith was lying about polygamy, whether J.C. Bennett was lying about Joseph trying to make advances and proposals to young women, whether, Nancy Rigdon was lying, or whether any of these, Oliver Cowdery was telling the truth about these affairs and stuff. And so there's been this debate on throughout the history of the church on, do they tell the truth when it matters? And for those historical things, we don't know. We weren't there. And you just got to look at historical sources and pick which ones that feel right, look right, and you believe are true. But it's still speculation. This, for me personally, I was thinking about all this stuff because I'm going through my own faith transition. And I saw the statement from the church come out and saying that they didn't have any business relationships with Tim. And for me personally, that came at a time that sealed the deal for my understanding that even with people that are proclaiming to be righteous followers of Jesus Christ, they, in that instance, I know firsthand without a shadow of a doubt, because I was there, that they lied to save their reputation, to make their reputation and their image look better than it actually was. And that was a big turning point for me. Because everything else, I don't have confirmation whether Brigham Young was lying or Emma Smith was lying. Which one of those people are lying about the history? I don't know. And I'll probably never know. However, in this instance, I lived through this whole story, and I was in a meeting. I had a personal business calling from Elder Ballard to make a TV series about Tim. That I heard. Right. I was in that meeting, and lots of other people like Russell Brunson were in those meetings also. And so for them to come out and say that they had no business relationship with Tim whatsoever, yeah, that's really disappointing to have that come from an organization that I held in such high esteem for most of my life, as examples of integrity and honesty and Christian principles. So both Tim and the church, unfortunately, are not coming clean with the truth in this matter.
Right. And like I said earlier in my joke, but it's true. It's like, which one's lying? The $300 billion mega wealthy corporation whose founder is Joseph Smith, or the grifting influencer who has just been acting like him too much? Like, they're all pot calling each other black, pot calling the kettle black kind of situation. But the church, here's my defense of the church. If you think of it this way, while everyone who knows anything read that church statement that directly stated, the church has not been involved in any business dealings with Tim Ballard, where they had to frame it that way because the severity of what they knew was going to come out about Tim Ballard just helps kind of solidify the case of what a nefarious, evil, sadistic psychopath of a dude he is. So as obvious of a lie as the church was making, it was just so blatant. It's all over, the church's media arms of Deseret Book. Like, Tim is planning on suing them now because of that lie. As obvious of a lie as that is, it's done because of how badly they need to distance themselves from Tim and his actions. I'll put it that way. This persecution complex, framing himself as this persecuted religious martyr. Tim repeatedly goes on and claims that the LDS Church has betrayed him and that his excommunication is illegitimate. He can still wear his garments. He goes and sits outside the temple. They can't kick him out of the club. It's all carried out by some corrupt deep state insiders. And he's suffering not because of his own actions, but because lukewarm church leaders used Christ's name to harm him. He's not using Christ's name improperly. They are. So he's setting the stage that any criticism of him is an attack from the deep state. He's immune to accountability. But remember, his entire career was built on endorsements from the LDS Church, as Ryan has just laid out. So as much as he wants to claim, oh, they ruined my name and they ruined my reputation, everything to do with Tim, us even knowing about him, has been bolstered by the LDS Church, has it not? Did we not make that completely clear, right?
Yeah.
So, like, all of the ways that he is angry that they are ruining him, he would not be in this position without them. That's true. But he has used them to build his own brand just the same. Okay. So he has used the church for all of the things that Ryan just stated, including using church buildings for fundraisers. He's used Elder M. Russell Ballard's name to raise money. Like, the list goes on and on. So enter in another Mormon millionaire friend of Tim Ballard, Russell Brunson, he's a tech CEO from Utah who helped him on a lot of projects, gave him a lot of funding. And do you want to explain a little bit more of the background about who Russell Brunson is? Do you want to do that now, or should we do that after the clip?
Sure. I mean, he's just somebody. So what I've witnessed, how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints operates, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they have very devoted, faithful members that have a lot of money, and there's these lists of people that probably every apostle and a lot of general authorities have. When something needs to get done, they go and they talk privately with these members of the church that have a lot of money that want to contribute and help. And every member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that goes through the temple ceremonies, covenants with God, angels, and the witnesses in the church in that room, that they will use all of their time, talents, and all the Lord has blessed them with for the building up, for the establishment of Zion, and to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Something like that. And so when something needs to get done, and a good example of that is there's this girls' camp near where I live, and a new road needed to be put in. I think it was going to be like $15 million to build this new road. And the general authority went to this list of members that have a lot of money and just got a check for one of them to build this new $15 million road for the girls' camp. And Russell Brunson was one of these guys. So he was approached by Elder Ballard personally as somebody that wants to advance the goals of the church and wants to use his wealth from clickfunnels.com, which he built, online business that did very well. And Elder Ballard approached him to donate money, time, expertise, marketing strategies, and help OUR get up and running. And he admitted all this in a live stream, which was posted the day after the Vice News article came out denouncing Tim, because Russell Brunson is like, oh yeah, there's no way that statement that they had no business relationships with Tim is true, because I was in that meetings also. And he explains all that. And so Tim is now using that to back up his claims about having business relationships with the church. So he's building his case here for all of us in this public court to try and bolster his position on why he is being attacked. So do you have that clip ready?
Yes, I
Carah?
do. Okay.
Right.
And I thought that Russell Brunson took this clip down, but he actually
he did.
It's still up on his page.
Oh,
I went up there and it's still up there. He took it down and then he put it back up, I guess.
Yeah, it was actually a really important clip. And as I've been archiving stuff, I found a version of that and I archived it a year or two ago. But this is actually a longer clip. He has a long clip. I'm surprised he put it back up. You saw it on his social media?
I went and checked just now because I was about, for this podcast, because I'm a researcher, I was like, Tim is using a clip of somebody who, just like everyone else, like Glenn Beck and Sean Reyes, have all abandoned him. And he's saying that Russell Brunson is a hero who's still defending him. And I'm like, wait a second. I thought he took that clip down because he doesn't want to be associated with you. I went to his page and all of Russell Brunson's stuff is still up there. So maybe Tim's like, slide you some cash. I don't know why, but
really?
I'm pretty sure that the timeline probably went, Russell Brunson sees the church's statement. He goes, "Oh, no, they don't. Let me tell you the truth about everything." And he goes the day of and makes this rant into his Facebook. And then people, just like what happened with, other Tim friends like Eric Mustos and Glenn Beck, people are out there being online warriors for Tim. And then women come forward, or people on the inside are like, actually, that's not the brand strategy. We're all abandoning Tim. If you could please look at this evidence, and you'll see that it's going to be really embarrassing if you don't distance yourself as well. And Russell Brunson was probably like, whoops, daisies, take it off. So I don't know why he put it back up, but
wow,
all right,
that's really interesting. I'm surprised to hear that, because I haven't heard that Russell Brunson's left the church, but by putting that up, he's openly, directly opposing the church's position by calling them, saying that they're not telling the truth, even though it's been well established that statement came from the PR department and from the church and from higher ups. So that's surprising to me. If you got to put Russell Brunson,
do you want to watch the whole clip? Do you want to instead of just showing the clip, Tim Ballard shows, do you want to just switch to watching the whole thing?
If anything, just so that it's archived on your podcast for future investigations, for the historical significance of it, because it's really important.
Russell, ClickFunnels. If there was ever a more Mormon guy looking on the planet, I don't think I could find it. Okay, this is his post from September 16th, 2023, trying to set the record straight. All right.
Hey, my name is Russell Brunson, for those who don't know me. I make this video to talk about Tim Ballard. A lot of you guys know that he's someone who we have been supporting for the last few years. Some of you guys probably saw the new movie, Sound of Freedom, so you know a little about the story. This weekend, there's a bunch of new press coming out about Tim Ballard, people attacking him, his character, and just a whole bunch of stuff. And I got a lot of you guys who are my friends, people who have been donating with me at OUR, wanting to know my opinion, what's happening. And so I wanted to make an official video to let you guys know my thoughts. And I'm making this video as somebody who doesn't just have like third-hand knowledge or read an article about an article, someone who I've been involved with it, with him and with the group for a long time. So the most recent article that came out was basically saying that the Mormon Church was against Tim Ballard and this whole huge thing, and it's this big scandal. And it's interesting because the way that I found out about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad was actually from Elder Ballard. He personally called me and asked me to help Tim Ballard in Operation Underground Railroad. I have literally sat in the rooms with Elder Ballard and Tim Ballard as we discussed these things and these ideas.
So that's a major revelation there, that it was Elder Ballard who reached out and called this tech millionaire CEO in Utah to possibly donate, get connected with Tim Ballard and OUR. An apostle of the church used his position of power to call upon somebody wealthy within its membership to donate to a nonprofit cause. Now, Tim talks a big game in this video about 501c3s are not allowed to interfere and elections are not allowed to do this and that. Ryan, is a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints nonetheless a tax-exempt organization? Is this an appropriate way for them to be pushing their power around? Is this not an enormous revelation? He does not realize what he just said there.
Yeah, this is a gray area. I mean, the church, they keep their finances behind lock and key so hard, and they have forever. What they're doing and behind the scenes, what we see at General Conference is not 1/1,000,000th of what goes on behind the scenes in the church. But this is really important because my whole testimony, the affidavit that I gave to the lawyers about my story, was explaining exactly what Russell Brunson is talking about how Elder Ballard would go to specific members of the church to ask them to donate money, time, and resources. And I was told by Tim at the time when OUR was trying to get off the ground that Elder Ballard also asked the board of directors from Steve Young's foundation to come over and help set up and OUR. And so he was orchestrating from my perspective, what I was told by Tim, and in these meetings, how we were going to get OUR off the ground. Elder Ballard came involved, and he found people like Russell Brunson. He found Steve Young's board of directors to help set up the nonprofit OUR, get all the paperwork and the nonprofit status going. And then what was reported on by, and I didn't know this at the time, but we were getting money from a lot of different very wealthy people. Elder Ballard also, this is in the Salt Lake Tribune, in an article, you can search it, was providing tithing records of some of the most wealthy members of the church and the contacts to them for Tim's fundraising to Target. And so that to me is, I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you. Whether you're a member of the church and okay with that, or not a member, never Mormon, whether the church should be involved in starting a nonprofit like OUR behind the scenes without accountability, in secret. It's all done very in secret through these private conversations like with Russell Brunson. Whether that's appropriate or not, that's up to you. I know personally, I would not be happy if my tithing records were being given to some organization so that I could be targeted. I hate scammers, and I hate spammers, and I hate my information getting leaked out there and getting phone calls and text messages from businesses trying to ask for my money. What Elder Ballard did was a whole nother level. And I believe that betrayed the trust that these members of the church have in him and the organization. If any of those people are out there and listening, I'd love to hear how that happened. I also know personally another family, the Sorensen family, who is wealthy billionaire. I think they were the first billionaires in Utah. They were approached by Elder Ballard. That's not out on the public record. That comes from me because I was told that by somebody close to the family.
I think Lynn Packer has also reported on that.
Oh, did he found that? Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd love it. I want everything that I put out there to be verified by independent sources. So that'd be great. I have not seen that, but yeah, I was told that as well. So let's continue.
So Tim has this network between the billionaires of Utah, the mega wealthy $300 billion corporation of the LDS Church, and a best friend in one of the apostles, the senior most apostle. Okay. And he's best friends with the attorney general of Utah, who is not going to investigate his crimes. He has every single network you would need to have to be able to think you're above the law, to fundraise. And I've said this since the very beginning, before we even knew what the allegations were actually going to be about this immoral action of what Tim Ballard did. He already has the jet fuel of all of these people that he knows are going to cover from him. The network and the system has already been built in so that if things come out, which they have now, about him utilizing this network for his nefarious gains, he's going to do it. So what do we know about men in power? Do they often, ultimate power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely? That is absolute power in the state of fucking Utah, okay? That power absolutely fucking corrupted. Like, do not get it twisted, you guys. There are real victims. There are people who have been raped. There are children who Tim, yes, probably could have allocated some kind of resource to go save in some way. Everything has been put toward his legal defenses, his covering up of his scandals now. He's broken away from OUR. They had to kick him out because of the sexual assault allegations. He built up this entire mythology about himself, used people like Russell Brunson. And then when he got too much power and utilized it to hurt people, he's still acting like the deep state of the church is actually after him. Yes, the deep state of the church, of course. Oh, we just got $200, you guys. Man, also, if you do want to send enormous amounts of money to me, Christmas is coming up and my donor box is down below. Thank you. Bryce Jones says, I was one of the individuals reached out to for donations. Oh, wow. I can see why. Thank you. I understand. Appreciate that. It wasn't through tithing, as I haven't been a member for years, but myself and colleagues were all higher earners, 7-figure ranges, and pressure to donate. And I was pitched that this organization was backed by Elder Ballard. Bryce Jones,
wow.
That's insane.
Wow.
Will you email us?
Yeah, please.
Below. Let's talk.
Email, yeah, we
Thanks
want
for
to talk.
that.
I want to know what that looked like. This is like so important for understanding this whole thing, is how this organization worked behind the scenes and how Tim was made into what he is today. And that whole story has been kept hidden so far. So please, reach out. Carah's emails in the description down there. We'd love to have totally off the record conversation, if possible, and just so that we can understand a little bit more about how that system worked, and from somebody that's on the inside. And
and I'd be interested to know,
I'd love to talk to you.
I'd be interested to know if you had a relationship with Elder Ballard, and like Russell Brunson, he was the one who reached out to you. Just curious how that went down. Super interesting. Thank you, Bryce. And I want to know what happened after that. Like, gosh, we have a lot of people who've reached out to us over the years, and have given us intel, but aren't able to come on the podcast. But I would say, Ryan, people are getting more brave. Some people get cold feet, which is understandable. If you come out against him in any way, he will probably try to sue you. But it has helped us stay motivated, that a lot of people who were former followers of Tim, or people who know things on the inside, trust us and want to help us put this whole story together and get the information out. So any more information that we can get, even if it's not an interview, like, we really appreciate it. Email us. Thanks, Bryce.
Yeah. We'll keep anybody's identity that wants to talk to us completely confidential. I know that you'd be asking us for a lot of trust with that. And if you want to remain anonymous and completely off the record, that's totally cool. We're good with that. We're also good if anybody wants to come on board and do an interview that firsthand, that's cool too. But anonymous information.
And I have a studio now. That's another exciting thing.
Yeah.
Secret. I have a studio, so I am professional. It's not this one. I'm borrowing Mormon Story Studio. Okay. John said that I could use it anytime I want. Thank you, John. This is a juicy live stream, isn't it? Wow, Bryce, thanks for the interesting info. I also like this comment that says, like the way he explains the real issue of sex trafficking to bastardize it for a profiteering, political, bigoted scam. There's examples of people and groups who do it right, and he ain't them. That's my mission statement. That's the most concise. Thank you so much. You put it perfect amount of words. And this is... Jennifer, I can tell that you and I would be friends. LOL, the government red tape that caused him to create his own organization was the competency test he couldn't pass. Boom.
There's too much accountability in the government. As I can't believe I'd ever say that, but
I never say that.
I never say that. That's setting the bar really low. But apparently, even for Tim Ballard, there's too much accountability in the government, and that's So there's more Russell Brunson, right?
Yep. Oh, there's so much more. Okay. So we just established that Elder Ballard, the apostle of the church, reached out to Russell specifically, and let's see where he goes with this.
And so I want to start with, again, these are not my stories to tell, but just to let you know that the accusations that they're being made on the media are not true. As someone who was literally in the room when these conversations were happening. So that's number one. I wish I could go into a lot of detail, but they're not my stories to tell, but I was there for many of them. Number two, those who don't know me also, I am a marketer. I built a large company buying ads on the internet. I know how media works. I know how to get people to click on ads. We spend anywhere between $1 million to $2 million per month, every single month on ads. And this is a book some of you may have heard. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying, Confessions of a Media Manipulator. And if you read this book, this is a book that most good marketers have read. They understand how to manipulate the media to get them to say what you need them to say. Really good book, by the way, for the marketing friends out there. It's one of the best. But for those who are like sitting there watching the TV and you're freaking out, like, oh my gosh, Tim Ballard's a bad person. Oh my gosh, OUR is not good. Oh my gosh, and you're freaking out by these things. It's because you don't understand how you're being manipulated. And I want to kind of bring this to the forelight so you guys are fully aware of how these things work, right? Like when I first got involved with OUR and with Tim Ballard, I was warned by multiple people, including Tim and Elder Ballard, like, if you decide to go down this path, the gates of hell are going to begin open up, and like people will be attacking you. You'll be like, they warned me for that, knowing that if I was going to go step and help in them with these things, that was going to happen to me personally. And if it's happening to me and if I've been attacked because of it, imagine how much worse it is for Tim. Like when he finds somebody who's doing human trafficking, somebody who is a legitimately horrible human being, right? He finds this person, arrests them, or is about to arrest them, is building a case against them. He's got like the ability to stop somebody who's doing the most evil things on this planet, right? Now, what's that person going to do? They're not just going to lay over like, oh, fine, take me, right? That person is going to come back and they have to attack the character of the person who's attacking them. Like if you look at like how to get uncanceled, like the whole playbook teaches you how to get uncanceled. It's like you have to attack the character of the person who's trying to cancel you. That's it. That's the playbook. Okay. Come back to media manipulation 101. Like,
so my initial thoughts on that are, yeah, sure, of course. And that goes both ways. How is Tim not utilizing that same tactic of manipulation that he's attacking the character of the deep state church now after they're going after him? This manipulation tactic is true of human nature, sure, but it's not always true 100% of the time. You still have to weigh the evidence. Like, it's just so freaking stupid. Am I swearing too much? I want to swear more. So fucking stupid.
No, it's appropriate. It's just language. Yeah. So, I mean, the beginning of that clip you just played, Russell Brunson, holds up that book. It's like, this is a playbook on how we manipulate people into clicking on ads. He is kind of calling himself a master manipulator that's figured out how to manipulate people to click on ads for profit. Now, I don't think you can see what he's actually saying, because what I'm hearing in that is that he's brought on to OUR because of that skill and of being able to manipulate. I mean, he's called it, he used the word manipulation. Here's how marketers there's the tools that marketers use to manipulate people to click on their ads and for profit purposes, for commercial gain. So he gets brought in with those skills to OUR. And what does Tim do with them? He's become a master manipulator that has used his manipulation tactics combined with spiritual manipulation on top of that to raise millions of dollars for his own brand, for his own organization, to hopefully save some kids along the way, but also do a lot of things like ride around in private jets and get chin jobs and plastic surgery and things like that. But that's what I'm hearing is Russell Brunson is a business guy with marketing skills that was brought into OUR, and Tim came out of that as a master manipulator. Maybe that's giving him too much credit, but Russell Brunson's got a role to play in creating Tim. And I hope that if he listens to this, or if anybody that knows him, I'd hope he come forward to deplatform Tim and hopefully undo some of the damage that he's causing, and anybody else that has platformed him. So that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing from that.
Absolutely. And thank you for the $25 super chat. Tara said, thanks for staying on this beat. You two make a great team and really complement each other. Thanks. We were talking about how in the last episode that Tim Ballard says that he's making the Sound of Freedom 2 and that the villains are being cast, and it's like the stake president, and it's like alleged, accusing victims of Tim's and stuff. And I'm like, are we going to be cast in that? Will there be a Carah and Ryan character in the Sound of Freedom 2? We were going through discussing who should play each other or who should play us. And I think we settled on, I want Aubrey Plaza to play me, and Ron
Nick Offerman
to play Ryan. Oh, Nick Offerman.
Yeah, Nick Offerman. Yeah. Personal hero of mine. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're getting into delusional, self-aggrandizing Tim Ballard category by fantasizing about us.
No, we're not, because we just got another $200 super chat. If they don't make the movie, we are with this funding. Thank you, guys. Financial support to encourage more Carah swears. Love you guys. Your amazing collaborations. Thank you. And that is
audience.
The Finnish. What's the name of the thing where it's the same thing forward and backwards? You know what I'm talking about? When a word is like race car.
Chiasmus. That's wording structure. Hey, so Saipa, I'm not even going to attempt it. Hey, email us so we can know it, because you've commented a lot and we really appreciate the support and comments and all that stuff. But I want to get your name right. So can you email how to phonetically pronounce your name so we can do that? It probably sounds really cool. And I think it's Scandinavian, or maybe, no, it's probably, I don't know. I don't know. We don't want to know more. So thanks for the support.
I'll tell you more
anyways.
about who that is later. He's a low-key friend of mine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Who just texted me and complimented me on the top that I'm wearing, if you know where I'm going with that. Okay. Back to Russell doing more explaining how manipulation works.
The way you attack somebody who's attacking you is you have to fight their character. So you come to that and you have the deepest, darkest, most evil people who are literally making tens of millions of dollars through human trafficking. Tim is finding these people, arresting them, getting them on trial, these kind of things. It's not that expensive to hire a good PR firm for 50 grand to go and build a campaign, to go and smear the character of the person. Like, that's the reality of what's happening. I just want you guys to be fully aware of it. And so
it's funny that, like, if that's true, let me put it this way. The church didn't fucking, somebody gave me a compliment and then I told me I should swear more, right? So if the church is going to fucking spend $50,000 hiring a PR firm, which they don't. I don't think they do. Maybe consultants, but Doug Anderson works for the church. He put it out, and all they did was put out the statement. Yeah, he is the PR firm. He puts out the statement, and then it's been radio silence from the church. Tim is like, they haven't responded, so now I have to respond. He says that in this video, and it's like, you just want to hear yourself talk then, because if they did respond, you would respond. And if they don't respond, you're going to respond. Like, you just want to hear yourself talk and go on your own hero narrative, right? So the church spends, $50,000 on something, while Tim probably spending nothing, I would guess, on his PR because it sucks. So whose PR firm is better funded and more led by the Lord in this situation? Probably the LDS Church. How about Tim's? He's off the rails. Looks like he's coked up. Looks like he's just a maniac in most of his videos, ranting incoherently with no documentation and no proof. If anyone needs to read that book and get a PR firm and shut their mouth, it would be Tim. End rant.
Mm-hmm. Yes, somebody take his phone away. If he had anybody, if he had a handler, if he had a parent.
His handlers all left because he kept getting too drunk and shitting his pants. Ryan, don't you know the intel? That's another thing that's alleged. Yeah, like, I'm telling you, like, he doesn't have people around. Remember the episode we did last week where I read the insider knowledge from the other reporter, Damian Moore, who said that his family said he's not doing well and that he's got crotch rot because he won't shower. Like, get a shower and a PR manager, Tim. All right.
Mm-hmm. When this, we look at somebody like Tim, like when he's stepping out there into this battlefield for me and for you and for us and for these children, like, that's who he's fighting against. And so it's not difficult for them to go and manipulate the media. Like, anybody can do it. If you spend $20 on this book and read it, like, you could do the exact same thing as well. So don't think it's like, oh, that's not really happening in this world. It is. It's happening every single day. It's happening to you. Okay. And that's one of the keys I want you to understand is like by him going and doing this, like, these are the people that are attacking back. These are the people that are feeding these lies to the news, the media, that you are then taking at face value, like, oh, this is a bad thing. No, it's not true. Back in the day, if you read how journalism used to work back in the day,
so I just want to pause there because that narrative that he's talking about slightly made sense as of September 16th, 2023. The narrative that Tim was going full force on the Spear Fund, his new organization, after he got kicked out of OUR, which is like, why are you in the Spear Fund and not OUR? Why are you tweeting from the Spear Fund and not OUR? Should I look into that? Were you kicked out for sexual assault allegations? I don't know. So that was Tim's whole, propagandizing machine. His friends, like what Russell Brunson just said, his statement from the Spear Fund is all about that. The sex traffickers come after you when you take them down. This is what is to be expected. Mm-hmm. Don't believe it. That, like, could you have gone with that? Like, if you didn't know that the church confirmed that it was from, the church reputation management confirmed that it was actually their people who put them out. If we didn't have that knowledge, if we didn't have the authors of the article from Vice News, Anna Merlin and Tim Marchman, who had been reporting on Vice News on Tim Ballard for years, and just happened to be this one where those reporters asked the church for a statement, and they went on Mormon Stories and they said, yeah, the church had 2 weeks to get us a statement. And then that was the statement that they gave us. If we didn't have them testifying that that it was directly from the church, if Doug Anderson had gotten fired or something, but he's not, he's still employed. If we didn't have, what else? Like the Deseret News reposting it. And if we didn't have all of those, Chim's friends abandoning him, what Russell Brunson just said, could that be believable? Like, I never believed that Tim actually saved any kids, and sex traffickers. You wish sex traffickers were mad at you, Tim. Oh, you would die to have actual sex traffickers be mad at you. They're not.
Yeah.
So if you were to believe that Tim was really doing the work, that narrative made sense. But too much has happened. Too much has come out that what Russell just said, that these people attack you, is now the same narrative. See where I'm going with this? That when you come out against people, they're going to attack you. Tim is using this same manipulation narrative to say that actually they're now attacking me because I am talking about their satanic ritual sex abuse within the church. That's the whole reason that they're attacking me. It's taken him 2 years to come up with a reason why this statement came from them. Yes, it didn't just come from Vice News and some sex trafficking, bad, nefarious guys. Tim now has to take 2 years after he could not get back into the church that he now claims is infiltrated with satanic ritual abuse. And now he has this new reason why they are attacking him. So before it was the sex traffickers, now it's the satanic ritual abuse within the church. 2 years later, that is his excuse. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
What a time capsule we're in.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. That's a really good point. Now, backing up, something I just realized, I don't know that I've had this thought before till I heard Russell Brunson talking about what Tim's been putting out there, that he's being attacked because he is exposing and taking down bad guys, like actual trafficking rings. So when OUR was just being started, we were very, very afraid of traffickers, bad guys coming after and killing me and my family, because I was associated with Tim and I was starting OUR and I was going to be part of that. And Tim was afraid of that. Like everybody that came into this arena was afraid of that. Russell Brunson said that he was as well. He was there at the same time. And so we had meetings on how to keep ourselves safe, and how to keep our personal information off the internet, so that when Tim took down and when OUR took down these trafficking rings, it wouldn't come back and we'd find all of us dead and they'd come after our families. I even remember like OUR even paid for, got a really expensive, highly trained Malinois dog. I think it was a Malinois. Yeah. That for Tim's personal family that was at their house for all this. So we took the threat from traffickers really serious, and it was all on the back of our minds that was the scary outcome of entering into that, like he said. However, what I just realized is that I was associated with Tim publicly on TV from 2012 to 2016, online for even further. And I worked with him all the way until 2017 when we had our falling out. So from 2012 to 2017, there wasn't a single incident of anybody coming after Tim or his family, any alleged trafficker, any alleged drug rings, or like from 2012 to 2017. I don't know, 2017 onward, I wasn't in the picture, but there wasn't anybody, not even a single like credible death threat. I would have known about it. I would have been warned also that, hey, this is happening. We would get a call from probably the FBI, or Tim OUR would have allocated resources to protect the people around him and Tim. And I never heard of a single credible threat to Tim or his family. And
why would there be? Like literally, why would there be?
And one possibility that there wasn't is because Tim wasn't actually taking down bad guys. He wasn't actually infiltrating. I mean, that is one really possibility. One thing that also didn't make sense to me at the time is how public Tim wanted to be while he was going undercover. Those are two completely diametrically opposed endeavors. Like, you either go undercover and save kids, or you go public and then your cover's blown. But he wanted to do both.
He wanted both.
And he wanted both. And so what makes a lot of sense here is just looking at it from the outside with all the facts that we know, is that Tim was creating markets through these sting operations, turning people that weren't traffickers, that weren't part of some giant trafficking ring, into traffickers by capturing them in sting operations, like Kelly Suarez, who was never part of a trafficking ring, never done anything like that. And entrapping these people in these self-made situations. And then, because he wasn't actually infiltrating trafficking rings, taking down bad guys, there was nobody that was going to be threatening him and his family. And now that's probably why I'm realizing now why over those 6 years that I was involved in a regular basis with him and OUR, that there wasn't any credible threats to come back at him and his family that I was aware of anyways, because I don't think he was taking down actual bad guys. I think he was creating markets and then taking down desperate people in vulnerable situations that made a bad decision to go along with his sting operations and attend these parties. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
And may I rant some more? So
Please.
It's very interesting that you just came to that realization about your time working with Tim and within OUR, where I kept saying, like, why would traffickers be going after Tim? How could he have even taken them down when his intelligence has come out to be a psychic, a soccer mom, basically, named Janet Russin from Utah? What intelligence from a psychic is going to lead them to actual sex traffickers that he's going to take them down? I've talked with Paul Hutchinson a couple of times, who was one of Tim's, best friends, biggest backers, his number one, undercover creep. Paul Hutchinson is another millionaire, billionaire that would go in on these operations. Paul has split from Tim and has told me many stories personally, and he's told many on his own podcast about the ways in which he didn't like what Tim was doing and why they broke up. But Paul will still say, to his dying day probably, that he's dealt with some really nasty dudes, and this narrative about sex traffickers coming after them, that's all legitimate. They really did take down bad guys and they really did get kids out. I hope so, but I am just very doubtful because of the psychic. I'm very doubtful because of Jimmy Rex, another, a podcaster from Utah. I've been on his show. He's gone on many, many jumps and operations with Tim Ballard. And he has said they have tried multiple times to go into cities, and they might have done some good work, but they're also working with the local police authority of, Mexico City or wherever that they're at. They're working in concert with them. And so, do the sex traffickers know that one of the people on the jump team was some Utah guy named Tim Ballard? No, it's anyway. So, and then Jimmy Rex has also said that they were, putting out these, they had flashing amounts of money, flashing money in front of desperate people in desperate situations, and that their very tactic, Tim acts like they're infiltrating some big sex trafficking operation, when in actuality, their tactic is just flashing money in impoverished areas of the world, hoping that somebody will sell them their child or their girlfriend, as Jimmy Rex has explained and has been alleged. So why would these big sex traffickers come after him? This entire narrative that Russell Brunson is talking about right now, that hey, don't believe what you're seeing. This is what happens. The gates of hell will open against you when you go after sex traffickers. Bull fucking shit. You did not do anything to go after major sex traffickers that would have the arm and the action to attack you and go infiltrate Vice News to get this statement out from the church. That entire narrative from the get-go, everybody in OUR knows that that's bullshit. They know that that there's no amount of power that could possibly orchestrate Tim's demise this is a demise of Tim's own making. The organization was a fraud, and Tim's a fraud in and of himself. This whole manipulation thing that Russell Brunson's talking about is manipulation on behalf of OUR, on behalf of Tim Ballard, and on behalf of all of his cronies, propping him up because they all have something to gain from it. So don't give me this obnoxious lie about sex traffickers are coming after you. That is, again, I want to go back to the analogy about a quarterback having his linemen, okay? Tim Ballard he's trying to run a pocket, okay? You might not say, I don't know anything about football. With this championship belt that I just won in flag football, playing my 3rd season, and say differently. So speaking on behalf of Beehive Sports,
that's how you know about football,
and my championship team. Yeah. Speaking on behalf of football enthusiasts everywhere, Tim needs an offensive line. He needs people to guard against a defense. He uses a deceased apostle of the church that can't speak for himself as a lineman. He uses this idea that he's saving kids so that people can't attack him. And it's all just an offensive line so that he can run around. And is he going to throw the ball to somebody else? No, he's going to throw the ball to himself downfield to get the points.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. And just to add one more thing to your great point. How the OUR was operating with the sting operations was absolutely fraudulent and unethical and wrong. And they not really admitted to that, but they say they don't practice those tactics anymore. They don't do the couples ruse. They don't do the sting operations anymore. Now, it's unfortunate that so many people got caught in the crosshairs of that before they realized that this isn't something we should do. We played a clip on a previous podcast where Catherine said, well, we're just trying to learn from scratch how to rescue kids. Like, there's no white handbook or there's no manual for how to rescue kids. And, you try something else and then maybe you think, oh, okay, maybe we shouldn't do it that way. Yeah. Taking married women into your hotel room and practicing tantric sex with them is something you shouldn't do. I don't think you need a manual. You don't need to experiment with that to see it's a really bad idea. But also there are people, I want to just make sure we get things as accurate as we possibly can in the organization of OUR that were not part of a fraud. They're genuinely trying to do something good in the world, genuinely trying to rescue kids, genuinely trying to take down bad guys, genuinely trying to raise awareness for human trafficking. And there's a lot of people in OUR that I respect and I know that are and were trying to genuinely do something good in the world. But unfortunately, most of their information and my information and a lot of people's information on what we should be doing, who the bad guys are, and what the situation was being fed to us by Tim. He is like the sole person that knows everything, kind of like the prophet of the Mormon Church. You just like, well, he's behind the scenes. He knows everything. So let's give our allegiance to him. Tim set up his organization the same way. He's not only the CEO and involved in all this, he's the only expert on the staff that knows how human trafficking work that came from Department of Homeland Security. And he's also the spiritual leader that's getting into our guidance from God. And so you have this like perfect storm of everybody needs to rely on Tim for understanding what's going on. And a lot of stuff is unverifiable, even though it's a nonprofit, we can't verify his claims, and he compartmentalized people so that they would not be able to verify that. A good example of that was the 2 psychics that Tim worked with. One of them I know personally, Lori. He got psychic advice from her. She's somebody that he brought on our tours that claimed to have the ability to talk to people beyond the veil. Similar to Janet Russin, but Janet was more of a remote viewer. But she also could talk to people behind the veil and do a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyways, what's really interesting about this, and I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to do a video that goes in depth into what I know and my personal testimony, an update on my own YouTube channel. That's Nephite Explorer. That was the show that I featured Tim in. You can watch our own clips. and I'm hopefully going to do that really shortly. But I'll give you a sneak preview of what I've put together. These two people, Janet Russin and Lori Fleurer, the two psychics, Tim would not allow them to meet or be in the same room. He wanted to keep them separate because he's trying to control the information that everybody has access to. This is how cult leaders operate, and this is how he operated. He also shielded people from his relationship with Elder Ballard. It took me 6 years before he brought me into a meeting with Elder Ballard. And so everything that until I had an actual meeting face to face with Elder Ballard, I had to take Tim's word on what Elder Ballard was saying. So he has all these firewalls and these safeguards on the flow of information so that people in different parts of his organizations, part of his universe, part of his profit and nonprofit world all have to go through him to get the information on what's happening, and he'd keep people separate. He kept the psychics separate. He'd use Elder Ballard as kind of a bargaining chip. A good example of that was John Moreland, who was the CEO of OUR in 2016, who was in the meeting that I went to with Elder Ballard. I didn't know who John was, and Tim all of a sudden made him CEO of OUR. And I was like, dude, why did you make this guy CEO of OUR? He's like, well, he's got a private jet and he's told me I could use it anytime I wanted. So he gets to meet Elder Ballard. Like, that's straight up what he said. I'm like, all right. I'm like, yeah, that's what it takes. You give Tim access to your private jet, you get to have a meeting with Elder Ballard. So that's another way he was using Elder Ballard as leverage to get things for himself personally. So he was controlling the information between different factions, between different people. And so the people within OUR that were good, that had genuine efforts and ambitions to help human trafficking, people like Bree Ryder, who joined OUR wanting to do something good. You wanted to use her social work skills to help victims and things like that. He brought in those people, but then he'd keep them in the dark and he would control the narrative. And it was just such an exhausting thing to see him control the narrative on information from people and people within OUR. But yeah, that's what was going on. So yeah. OUR was not performing what accomplishments that they claimed they were. But it's because Tim was controlling all the narrative in the OUR. He was able to manipulate people like Russell Brunson's talking about. I hate to call him a master manipulator because it implies some sort of genius, but it's true. He was a master manipulator and a master controller of information, like every cult leader is that rises to power. They have to have those skills to be able to do it, and he had them.
Mm-hmm. He took the narcissist's path of least resistance as a life plan. So it's like he didn't come to this earth to improve upon the natural man and our instincts that you could say are all born within us to exploit and use other people for our personal gain. He just went straight down river with what came easiest to him. And thank you for saying that, Ryan. It's very obvious to me that in every respect, Tim was not after saving the kids from the beginning. This was a money-making venture from the get-go. He convinced other people that it was a kid-saving venture, and that's how he was able to utilize their platforms, and only as far as he could still control the narrative. He wasn't interested in using actual experts on sex trafficking. He kicks those people out. Once Elizabeth Smart and her dad saw what kind of shoddy operation he was running, they got the hell out of there. And guess what? Elizabeth Smart, I just saw her on the news last night talking about Epstein and the victims and standing up for them. And she says, enough is enough. It's time to stand up. So if Elizabeth Smart, who in many respects deserves a quiet, private life after the horrific abuse and kidnapping that she went through, if she is putting herself on camera to stand up for victims and possibly coming against a true type of deep state that doesn't want those victims' voices heard, and she's putting her voice on the line, why can't Tim Ballard, the hero, the sex trafficking expert of the world who has gained more notoriety by saving sex trafficked kids than anyone else probably on the planet. Why does it take Elizabeth Smart instead of Tim Ballard? During this exact same, time in history, Tim Ballard's talking about himself. He's going back to the thing that OUR completely was founded on. It's an operation for him and his own self-aggrandizement. And I think this comment right here, this exemplifies that. Simply June Blooming says, as a survivor who met Tim Ballard filming a Q&A for OUR, it was clear he couldn't care less about survivors, didn't acknowledge us. No, thank you. He did, however, spend time in a corner with a couple ladies. Will you email us too? I'd love to talk to you. We acknowledge you. Sorry for what you've been through, and we'd like to hear more of your story. But I think that, really pushes exactly. I mean, it's not just me with some, like, the way that my mom talks about, like, oh, Carah, you just have, like, you want to make the church look bad. I had mostly a fantastic time within the church. It's a not true thing. I want to stop predators within the church. I want to stop people who utilize religion and spirituality to con people like you, Mom, and people within the church who want to see horrific things like sex trafficking coming to an end. Tim Ballard's not the guy to do it. Your daughter's a champ. Never forget it. Okay. All right. Back to Russell.
Good rant. Also, I want to answer why Elizabeth Smart is coming forward advocating for victims. It's because she actually cares about victims. I met her. I've actually talked with her recently about this whole situation, and she has built a career off of advocating for victims. Tim has built a career off of advocating for fundraising for himself and growing himself and his own notoriety. It's like, I think that's a really good, like, look at Elizabeth Smart and everything that she puts out there. Is she trying to make a movie about herself? Is she trying to be out there and say, there's a conspiracy against me? First off, there aren't any allegations about misconduct from her, and there aren't any movie making ideas. She's just purely a person that's advocating for victims, as somebody who was a victim of sexual assault in the most horrific way. And so compare Elizabeth Smart's Facebook feed, social media feed, to Tim Ballard's, and you'll see a very stark interest on where the focus is. And that's so you brought up a great example. Like, love Elizabeth Smart. She's a true victim advocate and shows us what that looks like. It's not the movie making, I'm making Sound of Freedom 2 and I'm going to expose everybody that's ever attacked me. That's not a victim advocate. That's a self-aggrandizing, delusional wannabe prophet that is just trying to make some money for himself and amass power and a following. You don't need a movie about yourself to advocate for victims. You can just advocate for victims like she's doing. Yeah. Exactly. And Ryan, your camera's getting real glitchy, at least on my end. Audience is Ryan's camera cutting out for you guys. Your voice is fine, but it's a little glitchy. So if there's anyone using Wi-Fi in your house, you might want to go tell them to go outside. Just a thought. Okay. If you can. All right. I don't think it is. Yeah. And furthermore, we got a super chat there. Do I? We got a super chat from Jonas Alfonte, who brought up a good point that we got to keep hitting back. He says that I'm sure his second anointing excuses his greed. Yeah, we got to keep reminding people that he had the second anointing. By all accounts, can't confirm that for sure because it's like a fight club. It's the one rule is when you get the second anointing, you don't talk about the second anointing. But he most likely 99% sure had the second anointing, which whole nother look into that. Look at what that entails, because that's a big part of the story and why his delusions about being on the right side of God are so solid, because he can't fall from that grace unless he murders somebody and sheds innocent blood. Whole nother topic. Yeah, we'll got to get back to Russell, but thanks for bringing that up. That's an important part of all this. Thanks, Diamond Dave, joining us from Mongolia. That's incredible.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this live. Okay. Somebody else made a comment about how he's using similar tactics of QAnon. And honestly, the Occam's razor of all of this is no, Tim's not actually, he never cared about kids from the beginning, because if he did, he would not have set up a for-profit arm of his entire operation in Slave Stealers LLC to be an entertainment company. If he cared about kids from the very beginning, as Ryan has explained before, when they were friends and business partners, they had the idea to make a TV show about rescuing kids from sex trafficking and taking down the bad guys around the world. But because it wasn't going to be shown on National Geographic Channel within the United States of America, where Tim wanted the most fame and the glory, he turned that down, and he went the route that would make him more money and give him more control by starting Slave Stealers LLC and these for-profit arms of a nonprofit organization that would give him money. So you don't go out saying, I'm going to make films and exploit the already horrifically exploited children of the world if you cared about kids from the very beginning. But his audience doesn't care. His audience couldn't give less of a fuck, because everything that we know about Tim's audience, I'm going to offend some people right now, but it is people who are, they want to feel like they're on the inside. They have a Dunning-Kruger effect. If you know about the Dunning-Kruger effect, the people who know the least about something are confident that they know the most about it. And then the more you know about a subject, you realize like how incompetent you actually are and how long the ladder is, and how you have to have a consistent time and effort in understanding a subject, and then maybe you'll get there. Okay. Now, I went on Shalice's show, Cults to Consciousness, the first day that this broke. I was an enthusiastic introspective ex-Mormon who wanted to know about Tim Ballard when this story broke. I didn't know what the crap I was talking about, but I knew that I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I'm over here. People within Tim Ballard's faction of followers, supporters, whether evangelical, Mormons, I'm not saying that everybody who is any of these categories is of this persuasion and it doesn't apply to everyone, but Tim knows the audience that he's talking to are people who have very little information, but have very high confidence that they are correct and that they're on the inside of this theological debate over what God is right, this debate against good and evil out there in the world against the deep state. That is who the same audience that believed in QAnon and believed that Donald Trump was going to be ushered into the seat of the president to take down these pedophilic organizations. All of that audience is still who Tim is trying to preach to. So they don't give a fuck about actually taking down sex trafficked kids, or else they would be saying, hey, Donald Trump, why is your name all over the Epstein files? They would be beating that drum into the ground about actual victims. But if it hurts their person that they support politically, if it actually would have to have them confront their worldview about how we systemically get rid of this scourge of the earth of abuse of children, we'd have to confront patriarchy. We'd have to confront systems in which men want women and children to be subjugated to them and their power. They'd have to confront the systems of welfare that are needed to ensure that children do not end up in situations where their parents do sell them, whether in this country or around the world. There are actual systems and prevention mechanisms that people who care about sex trafficking have been talking about to Tim that he has brushed off for years. He doesn't care, and his audience doesn't care, because unfortunately, helping kids is it's divided down political lines. If you think that you can just say that there's a deep state, that there's a cover up, that there's traffickers in another country, you're not looking in your own backyard. So all of the same QAnon people, all of the same Tim Ballard supporters who have this secret cabal around the world that are trying to take down Tim wouldn't do fuck all to help kids in their own community who are starving and having to go to food banks right now because their food stamps have been cut by the government. So actually helping kids is on a communal, it's on a personal level. It's not just this secret cabal that you think you're on the insider knowledge of, but that's what's cool. That's what's fun. That's what makes us feel like we are driven and we have a purpose. We know more than other people, but that's actually not how we systemically attack this issue. It's obvious from every expert, but again, that takes introspection, that takes reading, that takes confronting your own biases and your own worldview. Oh no, because Black people get welfare, so we can't do that. Like, there's people who we don't want to subsidize their bad life choices. You know, it's like the entire fucking government has subsidies for every single goddamn corporation under the sun, and we can't take people out of poverty so they're not in situations where they end up getting sex trafficked. That's the actual solution. So if you don't like socialism, welcome to the club, but the entire government subsidizes every other wealthy billionaire. Elon Musk has been subsidized with our tax dollars to the high heavens, and yet we can't subsidize and provide programs and actual funding for victims in this country, because this country does not give a fuck about women and children. That is what we have to confront. It's not that it doesn't give a fuck because all of the people in the government are actually pedophiles. That might be true. It doesn't give a fuck because it doesn't care about policies that ensure that people are protected. So if you care about children, look at the policies you support and then shut the fuck up. I got angry there. It just makes me angry. I just don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like being told that I am part of some, I care less about kids than some Tim Ballard evangelical supporter because they say a prayer. It doesn't do anything. Thoughts and prayers are done. That's it.
Carah for Senate, right, people? Run for political office. We need more honesty like that. Like, yeah, you went down some tangents, rabbit holes. That's good stuff. You're absolutely right.
Another super chat. You guys are helping out. Is this the
Sam
real?
Young.
This is the real Sam Young. So help me. All right.
Are you talking about this?
If that's the real Sam Young, I could kiss you.
The Sam Young that stood up for youth in the church that were
the Sam Young, who's the bishop of the LDS Church that was excommunicated because he advocated for children to not have to do bishops interviews where they're asked questions but a sexual nature alone in a room with an unqualified older man. And because he was advocating for the safety of children, the church excommunicated him.
Yep. If it's that Sam Young, you're a hero. If it's not that Sam Young, it's probably not. Still, thanks a lot, Sam. That's awesome. Appreciate your help.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Apparently, we were watching something about Russell Brunson, and let's jump back into it.
And he's inspiring a lot of thoughts here.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Sam Young, wherever you are, either this one or the other one, wherever you are. Thank you so much.
We love
all
Sam
you do.
Youngs. Sam Youngs are awesome.
Yeah, just plural.
Had integrity. They'd go and they try to figure out the truth, and they'd fight to get the best story. And then because there's only 4 or 5 TV stations and news places, they would go and they'd get the thing, and the person with the best document thing would win. Right? The last 20 years has changed all that. Ever since media has become a thing where anybody controls media, every blogger, every social media, every influencer gets it. Ever since then, media has been so easy to manipulate because whoever is the first person to crack the story gets the clicks, gets the ad revenue, gets the money. So it used to go from the top, like trusted news sources, it would work its way down. Now it's the opposite, where you stumble something, you leak it out of the bottom. Everyone else jumps on it quickly because they want to get the clicks. That's how the advertising revenue is played. That's how the whole game is played. And so it's no longer based on like credibility and truth. It's based on who's going to get a controversial thing so they get their message out there the fastest. So you'll take somebody like Tim Ballard, who right now, a movie came out, Sound of Freedom. People are waking up and finally becoming aware of this thing that we've been fighting for 10 plus years, to help people understand like this thing is happening. This darkness, this evil is something you need to be aware of. You need to care about. You need to raise money. You need to donate. You need to help and try to be part of it. Right.
Sorry, back on my leftist rant again. People who care about sex trafficking, people who care about the abuse of women and children have been banging that drum and blasting that horn long before Tim Ballard and this organization, OUR, came to the forefront. The only thing that OUR did was, I'm gonna be controversial here. In the words of Jimmy Rex, he said that he found that more people started to get ideas about how to make money off of sex trafficking their own family members. Because when Tim Ballard says that this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise on the earth is sex trafficking, people got some ideas. And Jimmy Ricks explained in one of his podcasts that he started to see more people get involved in sex trafficking because of what Tim Ballard did, because his the way in which Tim explains it through The Sound of Freedom has no legitimacy. It's not credible to his real life story of what he did whatsoever. It's just completely fabricated. And furthermore, it's not reflective and indicative of the patterns of abuse that we see at home. It is not a brown, seedy person in another country who is kidnapping your child and putting them in a shipping container and taking them to the Colombian jungle. It is people who don't have access to drug rehab centers. It's people who don't even know that they're being sex trafficked. Is the number one type of person who's sex trafficked doesn't even know they're being sex trafficked, right? So the education that the Sound of Freedom provided that Russell Brunson is explaining here is absolute and utter bullshit. I wish that it did the good that they're explaining, but it's important to call out this evil of what it is in sex trafficking and the profiteering that people like Russell and Tim Ballard and the hero making and the myth making use when they're not telling the stories of victims correctly. Because every single thing that Russell Brunson just said was to self-aggrandize his mission, his backing, and Tim Ballard's, when none of it is based in reality. And it helps, I'm going to say, relatively no one.
Yeah. And to back up what you're saying, because you're right on, that research is absolutely irrefutable that the majority of sex trafficked kids are trafficked by somebody within their own family. So the fact that we have such a high child sexual abuse rate in Utah, that means the people that are doing that, they're not these trafficking rings in third world countries. They're not organizations. They are the family members of those kids. That's predominantly somebody close to the family that has access to the kids that are predominantly sex trafficking and abusing children. And that's the sad reality. But Tim can't get up there in these fundraisers and be like, all right, we need to combat sex trafficking of kids. So keep an eye on your family members who might have those kind of ideas. That's not a fundraising pitch. No, it's like, these are bad guys in third world countries, and I need to put on my tactical vest and go in and save them and kick down the door and pull the kids out, Batman style. That's the fundraising pitch that he gives. But the reality is, like you explained perfectly, the research, and there's plenty of studies for, I wish I had them on hand, but you can look them up. Look up studies on who is trafficking kids right here in the state of Utah, right around the world. It's usually family members or somebody close to the family that's doing that, which is why Sam Young entering the chat in this is so timely, because he did things to actually help dismantle the people that had positions of authority that could that were putting kids in vulnerable situations. Did you see there in the chat that Sam said it is the Sam Young we're talking about?
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. And so
you, Sam.
personal hero. That's awesome. And I'm going to interject, like, Sam, you have no idea how your courageous acts have impacted the ripple effects. And one of those is just a month ago, I went to my friend and who was in the bishopric of my local ward. And I outed 3 different men that were involved in grooming kids or in doing things that made put kids in danger. And that was a really hard thing to do in my own social circles, in my own community. My wife had a really hard time with, what's going to be the fallout of that. But Sam is one of the people that, blew up his social circles, blew up his friend groups, probably by publicly coming out and saying that what the church is doing and their practices is putting kids at risk the bishop interviews, asking about sexual personal details of children behind closed doors, is putting kids at risk, all the stuff he advocated for change. That's what a true victim advocate looks like. We talked about Elizabeth Smart.
Mhm.
Sam's another great example of that. And so you have my eternal respect for
Mine too.
taking the consequences, excommunication from the church for advocating for children in your communities. And that's what it actually looks like, because the perpetrators of these crimes are people that are in the bishopric, are the people that are in the young men's, young women's organizations. Sadly enough, there's a lot of good people in the church, but because the system in the church is designed and functions in a way that protects perpetrators with no background checks, with closed door personal sexual meetings, and also with the blind obedience of members giving their trust to people in authority because they hold the priesthood and because they were called of God to be in that position. That is a perfect storm for predators to thrive and operate without accountability. And so
Yeah.
that's the reality of the
Thank you,
situation
Sam.
we're in. I mean, we need so many reforms in the church beyond what Sam was advocating for, which are just basic, like background checks for people working with youth. I'm a volleyball coach. I have to go through multiple background checks every year. I have to go through grooming training, how to spot grooming and sexual assault of minors training. Like all of that stuff that's implemented at the school level is not implemented at the church level. And then the biggest one that, if I could just go off in a rant, like what makes me so angry, is that there is a clergy exemption if a child comes to the bishop and reports sexual abuse, or if they are heard from a third party that sexual abuse is going on of any kind of a child. It's up to that leader to decide whether to notify law enforcement or not. And a lot of times, most of the time, they don't. Most of the time, they don't. And so the predators know that, and it gives an opportunity for the predators to then get called into the bishop's office to be asked about these alleged sexual assaults of children. And it gives that predator an opportunity to manipulate the situation, manipulate the bishop into not reporting. And that's where the clergy exemption, it's a hall pass, it's a free pass to predators to not be held accountable. And as we see, predators that are really good, they put themselves in a position where they're trusted. They're wearing the white shirt and tie. They're in the ward choir. They're, the exemplary models of in the ward. And quite often they do that specifically so they can have access to kids and get away with it. And it's absolutely disgusting to me. And one of my biggest problems with the church today is that the church is fighting against the reversal of clergy exemption in the school district. As a volleyball coach, if I am told that one of the girls or boys at our school has been groomed or a victim of sexual assault in any kind or touched inappropriately, by law, I have to report it to authorities. In the church, They have set it up to where they have clergy exemption where they don't have to do that. And so it's a situation for predators to thrive. And why the church is fighting against that is beyond me. And you did a great rebuttal of Jasmine Rappaport or whatever her name was, who was defending the church and their position to try and keep clergy exemption in place. She claimed that that because predators or the perpetrators won't be reported automatically to law enforcement, it encourages them to come forward to the bishops so they can work on the repentance process. And that is like the most naive thing I've ever heard. Clergy exemption protects predators. It doesn't protect children. That's the bottom line.
Predators and the institution, the $300 billion institution.
Yeah. And so that's
said.
a discussion for a whole nother day, but
no, it's actually a discussion for today. And Ryan, I'm so glad Sam Young's in the chat. I'm having a fangirl moment. But real quick, Ryan, will you go into your settings and downgrade your camera from whatever it's at and just try to, I want to see, because you're lagging.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to have clipped out what you just said and put it on social media, but you're kind of like for like minutes at a time. So try to downgrade and we'll see if that works a little bit better.
I went down to 480. Hopefully that's better.
So far it's not. Dang it. So Sam wrote, your description of the dangers to children in the church is spot on. And this is a former bishop who was excommunicated very publicly, very brutally. Maybe in 2018, that was one of the very first things that happened before I left the church in 2019. I was a child's rights advocate back then. And that really woke me up. And the reason why it isn't a discussion for a different day is because Tim Ballard and Sam Young are kind of like bizarro world versions of each other, because here's Tim, who's been excommunicated from the church, talking about how the only reason they're excommunicating me is because I actually was going to expose the satanic ritual abuse within the church. So he goes full into that. Sam Young, who is saying, hey, all the things that Ryan just explained about how the church was more interested in protecting institutions than protecting children. And hey, could we just change this policy and we won't have a problem here, basically. And the church said, no, you're kind of exposing something that we don't want. We want to keep it this way so that we can protect predators in the institution and not victims. If we have to pick one, we're going to pick that one. And if you're going to make a stink about it, then you're getting kicked out of the church. So has Sam Young come out and like said, actually, it's satanic pedos within the church. Actually, I have all of these other, has he gone on some gigantic diatribe? No, he stayed consistent on his mission from day one, that he's advocating for the children. That's how we were introduced as a public, as like Mormons and ex-Mormons in the zeitgeist of who Sam Young is. And that's consistently how he has stayed. However, Tim Ballard has only used his advocating for children as a type of bully pulpit, as a type of offensive linebacker. And when he gets excommunicated, he goes full bore and accuses the church of even worse things. So it's kind of interesting how if there was anyone who could be making, enormous statements about the church and needing to expose the pedophilia within the church, Sam Young, the excommunicated former bishop, he could definitely be the one to do that, but he doesn't, because he's a sane person and he's stayed consistent on who he cares about and who he's advocating for. It shows integrity, and it shows who has nefarious intentions otherwise, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I love this discussion. Gosh dang it. This is...
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. Maybe downgrade yourself a tiny bit more. We'll see if it keeps going. Okay.
Here, I'm going to step out. I'm going to see if my kids are online and see if that helps. Be right back.
Okay. All right. Back to Russell. Thanks for staying with me, guys. Keep me company. All right.
10 plus years to help people understand, like, this thing is happening. This darkness, this evil is something you need to be aware of. You need to care about. You need to raise money. You need to donate. You need to help and try to be part of it, right? And over the last 3 or 4 months, like, this has gotten huge. Like, people are finally waking up and realizing, like, oh my gosh, this whole thing is a problem. And so all they're doing is trying to attack the credibility. So they're taking Tim Ballard and like, okay, how do we attack his credibility? Like, oh, he's part of the Mormon Church. And there's these things like, let's try to figure out how we can spin a story between these two things. And they go out there, they find rogue employees, people who got fired, people like all sorts of things, and they get people to say stuff, and they mix it up, and boom, they leak it to the bottom and the top. Like, this is a big story. This guy's on TV all over the place. He's all over the movies. Like, we can get a lot of clicks off. A lot of advertising dollars will come if we can leak the story quickly. So instead of doing sounds like good quality journalism and like figuring out the actual truth, they all instantly start sprouting out, start publishing it all over the place. Again, if you want to see the playbook, how this game is played, it's called Trust Me, I'm Lying, Confessions of a Media Manipulator. This book will open your eyes to how it all works. And this is what's happening to you guys. So I want you all to be fully aware, those of you guys who are sitting at home, and especially if you're like someone who loves OUR, loves Tim Ballard, loves the mission, and like you saw Sound of Freedom, like, I want to be part of this, and you see these other things, just be fully aware he is being attacked from the outside. This is not the truth, okay? It is not the truth. Again, and this is coming from someone who literally, I've been in the rooms with him and Elder Ballard talking about these things, okay? I've been in the rooms. Elder Ballard is the one who introduced me. Tim never came to me and like told me some big story about Elder Ballard and like tried to get me in. It was the opposite way around, okay? So fully you need to understand, like, this is the way it's actually working. This is the actual truth, not some rogue employee who got fired because they were bad at their job, lying between the teeth. Like, it's what literally the sources are if you look at where they're getting this stuff. Like, it's ridiculous.
Okay, he says literally where the sources are is where they're getting this stuff. Where they're getting what stuff, Russell? Like, this is embarrassing to have up right now. Every single other one of Tim's defenders who did this same play, Glenn Beck, Eric Mustos, the day that this came out, everybody else who did this play, they immediately retracted their statements because they looked at the evidence. They did exactly what Russell just said. They looked at the evidence and they believed the women. Glenn Beck, Sean Reyes, Eric Mustos, OUR, his own organization had internal and external, evidence from every different place that I could name, every different angle. People looked at the evidence and they all came to the conclusion that it wasn't some rogue employee who is the reason that the LDS Church is putting out a statement to distance themselves from Tim Ballard and denounce his immoral actions. Like, in what universe is Russell talking about that he believes that some rogue employee has the power from OUR to influence the church PR department to put out this statement? And if he's at this time when this video came out, the day of Tim's denunciation, he might not have known that now, but he sure as hell knows it now. He might have not known it then, but he knows it now. And this video was taken down for a little bit, and now it's back up. And Tim Ballard's using the endorsement of this video clip in Tim Ballard's defense. He's using it right now in the latest documentary little piece that Tim put out on YouTube, part of his Backfire series that we're discussing. So he's using somebody where he knows that Russell's lying. He knows that when he made this video in September of 2023, that he didn't even know what the hell he was talking about, yet he clips it into his defense now. He knows that he has semen on the skirt, 100% DNA match to himself. He knows that he has been accused of heinous crimes that would definitely make sense. In Tim Ballard's own mind, he's got to know that he has definitely had sexual interactions of some sort, whether consensual or non-consensual, with people who are not his lovely wife, Catherine, right? He knows that he is clipping in somebody else's face to defend him, while it has come out that this person doesn't even know what they're talking about. Ryan, you're back.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm up in the mountains. Maybe my internet's just bad. Sometimes it does that. It's snowy.
The further that you live away from civilization, the worse your internet service is going to be, everyone.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thanks for trying.
Well, yeah, well said. And, I just have to point out, just for the historical record, so everybody remembers, one of the women that Tim sexually assaulted is in his own stake. And she is, we're talking about Keira Lynch. She is then subject to the fear of retaliation from her own community, which, and in that situation, I mean, I don't think any of us who haven't been in that situation understand how courageous it must be to come forward and accuse somebody in your own community of sexual assault, that they sexually assaulted you. That the amount of
when your
courage,
kids go to school together. Yeah. You're in the same stake.
Their kids. Yeah. Their kids in the same school. She's going to run to these people at the grocery store. That by itself is absolutely an astronomical amount of courage. But to add on top of that, the person who she's accusing that raped her is Tim Ballard, like megastar Tim Ballard, megastar in that stake, megastar in Utah, megastar in. So like, we're talking about people that I can't wait someday for their story to come out, for them to be like really introduced to the world, and for you to get to know these women, all of them, not just Keira, but all of them. And the amount of courage that it takes for them to accuse somebody who, at the time that they came out with their sexual assault allegations, Tim was a megastar coming off the Sound of Freedom movie, like to come out against anybody that's in your socials group, in your church, in your community is amazing. But to come out and accuse and expose somebody as revered as Tim Ballard is a whole nother level of courage that I don't think I can even comprehend how much that took for all those women, and for Mike Boris as well, to come forward and accuse 100%. Tim Ballard, the hero of Sound of Freedom of this thing. So, yeah.
Right. They are champs.
Yep.
They are champs. Okay.
All right.
And all right, so some rogue employees, if you didn't hear what he just said, like my whole point of stopping it right there is whether or not at the time when Russell Brunson made this statement on September 16th, 2023, whether or not he knew the truth is irrelevant because it's still up and Tim Ballard is using this clip for his defense right now in the face of all of these sexual assault allegations. So Russell Brunson, get your shit together and take this off the internet and tell Tim a cease and desist to take your face out of it. Because if you didn't know the truth then, you've got to know it now.
Ridiculous. Like, I understand the reality of it. I just wanted you guys to be aware of it as well, because you're being played. And it's important for you guys to understand that, because if you understand that, then you can stand on the side of the person who's literally out there in the front of all this, taking all these arrows for you and for me so that we don't have to. Instead of us turning our back and like, oh, shoot some arrows too. Like, oh, good. Like, I want to distance myself. Like, it's not true. These are lies. And the more you understand that, the more you understand the man and the character that Tim Ballard is, the more important it is. So I want to make this video for him and for you to understand the truth, because this is the playbook they're using. It works good, but it's not true. So there you go. Hope that helps. Tim, we love you. Tim, we support you. Tim, I'm here for you. And for everybody else, I want to encourage you, instead of just believing what you see on the news, look behind the man, look behind the truth, look behind the works they're doing. By their fruits you shall know them. And there's no better man on earth right now than Tim Ballard. So,
there's no better man on this earth than Tim Ballard. Oh, warn me, I need a vomit bag before I open up your videos, Russell Brunson. Gosh, I wanted to segue real quick. We're going to go back to clips from Tim's new Backfire thing that we've been going through. We took a detour because he shows a clip of Russell Brunson and we wanted to watch the entire thing. Yeah. But we'll go back to that in a second. But I also just wanted to highlight this clip. So if you guys know who Jordan Page is, she is a Mormon influencer with a bunch of kids, and she was asked around this same week on Instagram about the Tim Ballard situation. And I posted this thing you're about to see back 2 years ago, right after it happened, because I wanted to contrast what she said. She's another person kind of like Russell Brunson, who's like, no, this isn't from the church. This wouldn't happen. And then Mormon Stories interviewed Anna Merlin and Tim Marchman from Vice News, who wrote many articles about Tim previous to the one that all this hot water is about. But when that article came out, Mormon Stories got them on and explained in detail the process of getting this information and this quote from the LDS Church. So I wanted to play this, contrast those, just for the historical record. One sec. There we go.
This for a second. I need to explain one thing. Whether you like to.
By the way, it says on screen, somebody asked a question. Tim Ballard, I am a staunch supporter. He radiates light of Christ. I don't believe rumors. I seem to be the only one. Okay, then this is her answer to that.
Ballard or not, this is important to note that my church doesn't denounce people. That doesn't really happen, like, ever. And they don't announce things in the way that they do. It's fake news. What's coming out is fake news.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released this statement to us in response to a request for comment. Quite a bit of time went by between our request for comment and the church getting back to us with this statement. This was not rushed. This was not panic. They asked for it to be attributed to a spokesperson. This is pretty common, especially when someone is speaking institutionally and not personally.
Whether you believe in Tim Ballard and what he's doing or not, my church as an organization doesn't go about things the way that.
This is not a press release. This is a response to a request for comment. I can't find any evidence that LDS Newsroom ever runs the comments that they give to news outlets. So there's a very big difference between a press release and a statement to a news outlet. The Trib, Deseret News, TV stations asked if our statement that we ran was legitimate, was really from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. and confirmed that it was. They got the same statement from.
It's happening right now, and so it's fake, unfortunately. Again, removed him from this. I'm a supporter. I know him personally, and a lot of what you hear and read is fake, like in terms of the negative stuff. But my church doesn't go about things the way they're saying, so that is false.
We are legally, ethically, and morally obligated to approach people about whom we're reporting for comment. And the substance of our report was about the relationship between Elder Ballard and Tim Ballard, as described in a tranche of documents that we got under a public records request. We are not just going to dump that information online without giving everybody involved every chance to give us additional information, context, clarify things, dispute things, push back, say what they want to say. That's journalism. It's very, very basic.
False.
Gaza's population.
And Gaza's population. So if that isn't the most perfect clip that I can't believe I haven't showed on our show ever.
Yeah.
But there you go. Every time that Tim says that this is not legitimate, I just want to throw in what journalistic standards look like from the authors of that Vice piece. Vice News, the defunct Soros-funded pro-pedophile who apparently have just as much, journalistic integrity as anybody. They waited 2 weeks for their statement. The church wanted it to be attributed to a spokesperson. It's so interesting that what she says there, the church wanted it to be attributed to the spokesperson, as if everything that Tim just said suddenly just all got dismissed, that it's the deep state headed up by the PR department in the form of Doug Anderson. But what she just said was that the church wanted it to be attributed to Doug Anderson. Poor guy.
I like, for Tim's narration to make any sense, then next conference we should expect to have to raise our arms to square and sustain Doug Anderson as a true and only God spokesperson on earth. So maybe that'll happen. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Like, you can't really have it both ways. Like I said, do Mormons donate their tithing to the LDS church that is then allocated through the revelations of the prophet of the church? Do you still sustain that person and donate your money to them and Tim Ballard's foundation as well? When those two things are in conflict, do they not have to pick one? Like, who do you actually sustain at the end of the day? Members of the church have a decision to make. Okay. We get to go and play more clips. I don't even know where I am in my slideshow now.
With Backfire Part 2.
Backfire Part 2. So if you're just joining us and starting at the beginning and, to try to catch you back up, Tim has talked about how he, went to go to Boston to preach the Book of Mormon. That's where he found out that the church had stabbed him in the back, and that the statement came out and he laughed it off. He couldn't believe that it could have been from the church. He didn't believe it. And he's said that he's never used the apostle's name for any fundraising efforts, while also using his name constantly. So I think I'm at clip 5. I think that's where we're at. Okay. Maybe I already played this clip. You'll have to tell me. Oh, this is the one with Russell Brunson. Okay. So this is the clip I think that he plays of him.
There's a hero in this story, another hero named Russell Brunson. When he saw the statement come out, he has got a lot of followers. He has lots to lose. An active member of the church. ClickFunnels. He came out right away and said, I know that statement's a lie. Because Elder Ballard called me, Russell Brunson, to come down and help with a project associated with the church.
It's interesting because the way that I found out about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad was actually from Elder Ballard. He personally called me and asked me to help Tim Ballard in Operation Underground Railroad. I have literally sat in the rooms with Elder Ballard and Tim Ballard as we discussed these things and these ideas. And so I want to start with, again, these are not my stories to tell, but just to let you know that the accusations that they're being made on the media are not true. And this is coming from someone who literally, I've been in the rooms with him and Elder Ballard talking about these things, okay? I've been in the rooms. Elder Ballard is the one who introduced me. Tim never came to me and told me some big story about Elder Ballard and tried to get me in. It was the opposite way around, okay? So fully you need to understand, this is the way it's actually working. This is the actual truth. not some rogue employee who got fired because they were bad at their job, lying between the teeth. Like what literally the sources are if you look at where they're getting this stuff. Like it's ridiculous.
Again, the sources of where they're getting this stuff is just, I can't believe Russell Brunson still has that video up. Like there must be something going on behind the scenes.
Like somebody send this to him, put it in his feed. Like I want to see if he still feels the same way now that Tim is attacking the church. Because Russell, you're being used by Tim to weave this conspiracy theory narrative that Tim is being attacked because of Satanists ritually abusing children within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So are you okay? Or do you still stand by him as one of the most righteous men on earth?
Yeah.
Because
I would love to know the answer to that. He radiates the light of Christ, or as our number one fan in the comments says, he radiates the light of uncut cocaine.
For that.
I like that comment. Overzealous enthusiast 9731. Do you want to be friends? I like that. Okay. So Tim is to figure out where I even am in my notes. Well, so
this is something new for Tim. While you're figuring that out, this is new. So he's using Russell Brunson to back up his conspiracy theory. Russell Brunson, as far as I know, is still alive. Usually Tim only uses people after they've died. Elder Ballard, and now he's been using Elder Nelson's name, saying that Elder Nelson was appalled when he found out about my excommunication. Yep. Where was that information while Elder Nelson was still alive? Why didn't Elder Nelson come out? I mean, Elder Nelson, President Nelson, come out when he was alive. So he's used to using people after they die, telling us what they believed about him. So, but Russell Brunson is still alive, which is dangerous because Russell Brunson might turn on you, Tim. I would really like to know where he stands on that.
Yeah. Like I said, I just have this image of Tim as a quarterback with all of these offensive linemen as like, you know, his guards that he puts up, but it's kind of like a weekend, like what's the Weekend at Bernie's kind of situation where it's like these dead, like 90-year-old men being propped up as these like offensive linemen. And he's like, see, I got the best in the team. I got President Nelson and I got the deceased apostle, M. Russell Ballard. Like I got the best offensive lineman ever. And
Abraham Lincoln, if you believe
and
Tim.
Abraham Lincoln. Like, yeah. Okay. The next clip, let's play this one. By the way, by clip, I mean, I'm actually playing it in its entirety. You won't even have to go to his channel to watch the whole thing. I'm just sectioning them off. So, and then it made me very sad that the thumbnail has to be this sad little, probably exploited child.
Did Matt Holland and the others on the PR committee not know about those projects? I know they did because I handed my book one day when he was the president of UVU. I handed my book to Matt Holland. He knew I did projects associated with the church. Did he approve this?
Sorry, I got to insert my favorite Mitch Hedberg joke that goes, when somebody's handing out leaflets to me and I don't want it, you know, and you're walking down the street and somebody hands out pamphlets, it's like they're saying, here, you throw this away. So he's like, I handed my book to Matt Holland, who is Elder Holland's son, who is the president of UVU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's just, again, throwing around more name drops, but I just imagined Matt Holland being like, why are you littering? Like, don't give me a job to go throw this book away. Anyway.
Message? Did the other apostles who sit on that committee, did they approve this message? This lie to go out to a tabloid? I don't know. We'll find out through deposition and possibly through criminal investigations as the truth comes out. This is not a news cycle that ends tomorrow, guys. This is a news cycle that will never end. Lionsgate is doing a
yeah, it's a news cycle that will never end because you'll never get your reputation back and he won't stop talking about all the ways that he's been wronged. Any thoughts on that clip, Ryan?
Well, it actually could end really fast because he's like, did the other apostles approve of this? Well, I don't know. We know that they did, that he talked to Derek Westra, who is in charge of the Church Reputation Management Department. He's the head of that. And he admitted in this other video that he talked to Derek, and Derek said that this came right from the top. I've talked to Derek. Right. I have a personal mutual friend that connected me with him. He said that the denouncement came directly from the top. So, Tim, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're challenging the apostles of the church to prove you wrong, which they could easily do, and they could issue another statement signed by President Oaks now, or President Oaks could come forward if they would lower themselves to the standard of responding to this kind of stuff. And that could end the news cycle right now. I hope they do. I hope they come forward. Like, please put us out of our misery. Like, kill this narrative that he's weaving. I hope they do that.
Yeah, because they all initially said that there's no way that this came from the church. And then when it came out that it was from the church, they had to find some other manipulation tactic, as Russell Brunson would say, to still make sense of how it's not from the church that I sustain.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? Like, it's from the church. It's from the top. You just don't like that as the reporters. It's just, again, so obnoxious that he keeps calling Vice News some tabloid magazine. Like, did you not just hear the way in which they had full investigative integrity to make sure that they responded with a comment? And they've said that in interviews too, that they've reached out to Tim Ballard for comment and he's never responded, like the church obviously was going to need to give them a comment, and they just said that it came from the church and said, release it through the PR representative. Like, it doesn't make it any more clear. Who else are they supposed to, like, how else do you release a statement? Do you do it through the Office of the First Presidency email, send to Vice News? Like, all short of that, like, Tim is...
None of the apostles are on Twitter. They're not tweeting. Yeah. They're not on X. Sorry. Everything goes through the PR department.
Okay. Yeah, it's so obvious. It's again, it's the QAnon thing. It's like, no, there's actually a special deep state that I'm letting you guys in on now. Ooh, I like conspiracy theories. I don't always agree with the prophet. I didn't want to get vaccinated. Like, what is the he's preaching to an audience that he already knows very well.
Possibly through criminal investigations as the truth comes out. This is not a news cycle that ends tomorrow, guys. This is a news cycle that will never end. Lionsgate is doing a docuseries. Sound of Freedom 2, the script is being written.
All we see are those kids' faces.
Kevin Pearson, the area president, I'll get to him. The state president, people like Matt Holland, people like Doug Anderson, people like David Jordan, who I'll get to, the church's attorney. They are literally being casted right now in the film. 100 million people saw Sound of Freedom 1. I guess 200 to 300 million will watch this one because of the severe abuse that happened by these people.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I'm the most mad I've ever been at this, because he's saying in his whole point is that if Jesus would condemn him, Tim Ballard, for not pursuing this, it's that important. What does that say about Jesus's interest in real sex trafficking stories that Tim has remained silent about, like the Epstein files? Jesus would not allow Tim to stay silent, but he is allowing Tim to stay silent about actual sex trafficking, about what's actually going on in our country right now, about people who have credible allegations against top powerful people that Tim could actually advocate for. What does that say about Jesus, right? So he says that his enemies will then be portrayed in the Sound of Freedom 2, which Lionsgate is supposedly making, and 300 million people will watch it. He also contradicts himself. He says that he would have saved more kids and Sound of Freedom would have been out years ago if it wasn't for this, but he's also writing the script of Sound of Freedom 2 right now. So is the script already written, or is it being rewritten right now with a casting choice that's just, it's basically his revenge movie is what Sound of Freedom 2 is about. Like, you don't get clear. So it's a movie where he says, like, in his letter, to the prophets of the church that I need to make a video about this. It's like a 54-page letter that he writes when he's trying to get reinstated in the church. And he says in that letter to the first presidency of the church that's posted online for everyone to hear, that the chief villain in The Sound of Freedom 2 is who? Krista Casey. Tim Ballard, first movie, Sound of Freedom, you know, it's these warlords in the Colombian jungle. Sound of Freedom 2, sweetest, genteel, undercover Utah mom. Okay, that's who he's accusing as the chief villain, in his own words, of The Sound of Freedom 2. The
Utah soccer moms that are coming after
Krista
me.
Casey, who is a sexual assault accusing victim of Tim Ballard. Okay, with an army of other people backing her up. That's who. Can you imagine people going to see, yes, Sound of Freedom 2, I've been waiting for this, Sound of Freedom 1, and it's all just set in, you know, the Wasatch Front and Krista Casey and a bunch of women who are hairdressers and actresses and soccer moms are the chief villain. He's saying he's casting all of these people within the church and the PR department. That's who people are going to go spend, you know, an evening with their kids to learn about the evils of sex trafficking, as if that's how, you know, Sound of Freedom 1 was so helpful in getting the message across. Sound of Freedom 2, even more children will be saved because Krista Casey's going to be exposed.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's so ridiculous. That's why it's so funny. It's so ridiculous to me. It's because, as I've beaten this drum many times, he has from the beginning and will continue to build a religion of himself. It's a me, myself, and I, where every convenience is like, I mean, every convenient accusatory person gets cast as a villain, and everything that happens is proving more of a miracle from God. Every accusation proves more that he is chosen by God and that the gates of hell truly are coming out against him, right? Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah, it's so pathetic. Like, you can see what he's doing here is so obvious. He's threatening the people that won't give him his temple recommend and church membership back. He's like, if you don't retract your statement, come clean and repent to God and give me what I want, then I'm going to portray you in a movie that 200 or 300 million people are going to see. First of all, that's just childish. Grow the fuck up, Tim. Like, you don't have that kind of power. You can't threaten your way into getting people to capitulate anymore. Nobody sees you that way anymore. You're done. You've lost. They're not going to capitulate. And it's just childish. It's just really, really childish that he thinks he can, like, threaten and twist the arm of the church lawyer, of Doug Anderson, of all these other people, to giving him his temple recommend and church membership back and saying, sorry, Tim, sorry, we wronged you. Pathetic.
Yeah, it would be funny. It's funny. It's shocking. And it would be funny if so many people hadn't gotten hurt, if there weren't real accusations that are buried under all of his lies. And if this man wasn't still trying to recruit followers to this day by telling them that God speaks to him, and claiming that the church attacks him to cover up global child trafficking, where church insiders excommunicated him to stop child rescue work, as if he was doing any in the first place. But the church's motives were protecting trafficking and abuse, is where he's going with this. And he's making this, what he thinks is a strong case, showing no evidence at all, that they're obstructing internal investigations. You know, that's the core of his conspiracy, that he just can't stop escalating day by day. It's just a very extreme jump. and all of the, these supernatural events that he keeps claiming, like these heavenly voices are interrupting him. There's the video we showed last week in Jerusalem, like telling him, Tim, do it, deliver the rights. There's like this godly voice that he says, that's like his only evidence. His only evidence is a voiceover of some divine, like in some divine voice coming and telling him to deliver the rights. There's no receipts, there's no evidence, there's no emails, there's no paper trail, there's nothing. All just him on the spiritual side saying that God has chosen him as his instrument. All the while ignoring that in Mormonism, when the prophet speaks, really the thinking is done. If you're excommunicated, that comes from the prophet. It comes from the first presidency. In Mormonism, God talks through them, and being kicked out comes from them. God is telling, them, the first presidency of the church, one thing, but telling you, Tim Ballard, another, and he still wants to have it both ways. So you either need to break up with Mormonism, Tim, and say that the prophets don't speak for God, or shut the fuck up. If they do speak for God, but just other people in the church are part of the deep state, I guess God didn't tell them which deep state PR reps to hire to speak for them on behalf of God. And in that case, they're useless then either way. Deliver the rights is what he keeps saying. He hasn't delivered anything beyond these videos. He's only exposing himself further as a fraud. He's only admitting that he is so deep in his own persecution complex that he can't provide any evidence, but he can just keep accusing the church. He promises all these big revelations. All of these, documents are supposed to come out. Zero evidence, zero specifics. He keeps saying coming soon. Lionsgate is going to make a documentary, or Lionsgate is going to make a feature film, I guess. A Sound of Freedom 2. Like, does anyone really believe that? He is constantly saying that he cannot lie because he's sworn an oath and has all these pending lawsuits. Divine law from God is preventing him from lying, that he has to follow this divine law. Like, this whole idea that he cannot lie, he's telling the truth. He repeats that, does he not, Ryan, over and over again? I cannot lie. I cannot lie. It's going to be, I can't lie before my God, and it's going to be in criminal court. Versus his long documented pattern of lying and exaggeration and fabrication, lying to donors, lying in interviews. People who can't lie don't need to say, I can't lie 50,000 times in a row. Okay. I also wrote up a document of all of the ways in which Tim has lied. And this is not me being the snarky podcaster who wants to take Tim Ballard down. This is just like, one, sexual misconduct towards women, multiple women using undercover missions as a cover. There's 100% DNA match proving his semen is on his executive assistant's skirt, years worth of sexual text messages to women, stuff like he needs them to get a Brazilian wax to do tantric sexual stuff on missions. He was thrown out of the org that he founded after multiple women came forward alleging that Tim coerced them to share beds, shower together, engage in physical conduct, under the guise of saving kids. That's the most publicly and widely corroborated accusations, using donor money to funnel over $2 million to pay prostitutes. That's like, if you're saying I can't lie, the accusations and the corroboration between that, the DNA on the skirt, Tim has never once actually talked about the merit and faced the accusations for what they are being said about him. He's never confronted the fact that his DNA, his semen, is on his assistant's skirt. There could be a whole spectrum of how it got there. Celeste says assault. Tim Ballard says his lawyer says that he was so revved up from doing in a room with a prostitute during a sting that he grabbed her skirt to finish on. Either way, acknowledge that accusation, and then Tim, we want to hear from you why that happened. He's running ops without the proper authorization, oversight, safety protocols, former OUR employees said that he regularly staged missions without coordinating with local law enforcement, putting children, volunteers, foreign partners at risk, using, regular old soccer moms from Utah who are hairdressers and actresses and throwing them into deadly situations without training. And when things would go wrong, he would blame everyone but himself and cover it all up. Law enforcement officials in the US and abroad have said that Tim Ballard exaggerated his involvement, took undue credit for operations, or inserted himself in ways that complicated cases. So all of the things Tim Ballard keeps saying, I cannot lie, all of this is true. He already has a track record of lying, of exploiting the stories of trafficked children, of exploiting his own employees. That has been the pattern over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he still has followers. Like we just got Ocean Mikey entered the chat. He's showed up before in our live streams. Crazy people still believe Tim has not rescued children. I have seen a bunch of the footage of rescued children and met some of the children he has personally interested. Make a video, put your face out there. Actually, wait, is that Tim? Did Tim just join our live stream? Sounds a lot like Tim. I don't know. That would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
You got evidence, Ocean Mikey? Put it out there. Otherwise, I think Tim might be in the chat there. Because I think Ocean Mikey said last live stream that isn't it weird that Tim all these allegations came out when Tim announced his Senate race? Like, all right, Tim, thanks for joining the conversation.
Yeah, good point. Did Tim actually rescue any kids? He says he's rescued over 7,000 women and children. I have yet to see anyone actually come forward who said Tim Ballard rescued me or somebody from the family. Wouldn't that make sense? Like, we have Epstein's victims who are in the, multiple dozens at least by now, saying that this happened to me. I don't see anyone in
defending Tim.
Defending Tim. Yeah. I've only heard the opposite. I've only heard people who say that, like somebody in our chat just now, that they were the victim of, something related to sex abuse and Tim used them as a prop. So Tim's pursuit to utilize the cause of ending sex trafficking, might he have saved actual children in that pursuit? Probably. He's probably partnered with law enforcement in various countries. Has he done it ethically? I doubt it. Would those kids have gotten saved? Was he the one who made the difference why those kids were saved, why some pedophile was taken down? If he wasn't there, if OUR never existed, would they still have been saved? I don't know, probably. It's a gray area, but from what we know about the way OUR started, it has never been about the kids. And people within Tim's own organization have called him out for that. And there are multitude of Lynn Packer documentaries on his YouTube channel about Tim utilizing the suffering of people who were legitimately caged and put in terrible situations and sex trafficked, and utilizing their stories to make money and profit off of by saying that OUR spent money to send them to college and support them in aftercare programs that never fucking existed. That's what we know. We know that whatever he did, he used them for the cameras and then discarded them when they were no longer useful and he already made the buck that he needed to fundraise off of their stories and didn't give a fuck about what happened to them afterwards. The kids in Colombia, the Kelly Suarez raid, he cared more about making a story and collecting a bunch of kids on an island and young adults basically, and using people like Kelly Suarez and others who he could, what's the word I'm looking for? Bait, for lack of a better word, for his cameras and for his story, as if he's taking down some big sex trafficking raid when people like Kelly Suarez were not convicted for child trafficking, as he states they were. She was convicted for pimping, and it was the first and only time that she did. She would have never in a million years been put in that situation and been entrapped unless Tim Ballard was there. So he's out there ruining people's lives and making movies that make people believe that he is the person to donate to end sex trafficking and bring more children out of that? Yes. Does he know how to make a propagandized film to make you believe that? Of course he does, Ocean Mike / Tim. But do we actually see the results? Do we see the institutional fucking reform that I just ranted about an hour ago coming from Tim Ballard? Do we see him doing the institutional systems review of what our country, if he says that America is the number one buyer of children, does he look at the systemic causes for that? Or does he just talk about the problem and say, give me money and I will do something about it without people asking for results? I don't see the results. I am always willing to be proven wrong, but time and time again, it's stories of girls like the one that happened in New York who, I think her name's like Leana, something like that, who got herself out of a sex trafficking situation from Mexico to New York, and OUR took credit for her story when they were not there and they had nothing to do with it. So every single story that I have ever heard, it is profiting off of the trauma of this scourge on humanity and doing nothing to reform it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll share another story that I haven't shared before because it was told to me recently by somebody who was there. I think your mic is loose too, Carah. It's like getting some feedback from the desk, like maybe hitting on the desk. But while you're looking at that, so I was told by somebody who was there on the scene that Glenn Beck went to do this photo shoot, Christmas gift delivery at Foyer de Sion in Haiti, which was an OUR ran orphanage by Gesno Marty, the father of Gardy. And she watched how all these gifts that were donated from people back in the States were brought out, set out in front of the kids and stuff. Glenn Beck comes in, he does a photo shoot and things like that with these kids. And they open some of the gifts and stuff. And then the photo shoot is over. Glenn Beck leaves. All the gifts were wrapped up, bottled up, and taken back up to the orphanage's director's office, which he then subsequently took those, as he did with a lot of donations, and goes and sells them at the local market. So Ocean Mikey brings up, I've seen footage of kids that he's rescued. The kids at that orphanage came from another orphanage. Some of them did. And the testimonies of the people that are on the ground that have been told to me is the kids that were rescued from the other orphanage, where the orphanage director was jailed for being willing to sell a kid in an illegal adoption. Those kids went from that orphanage to Foyer de Sion, and their life was not improved. So, yeah, there's footage of kids being rescued from the orphanage they came from, but what's rescue actually mean? Are they improving their life? Are they getting into a better situation? Are they getting resources that they need to combat trauma that they've been through? Have they even been through trauma? Or are they just being moved around for the cameras? Presence being brought out for the cameras. So I'm sure, like, a lot of people have seen footage of kids that were rescued, but it's really hard to verify that they actually were placed in a better situation, that their lives were improved through the efforts of Tim, and that they weren't just props in his movies.
Yeah.
Unless you were there, you don't know.
Yeah. And to summarize what Ryan just said, what the Haitian orphanage, again, please watch my YouTube documentary about the Haitian orphanage. It's really good and explains this whole story in more detail with sources and everything. But Tim made an entire film called The Abolitionist about this rescue of Gardy Marty. And again, Tim's intelligence for that entire movie, going to Haiti, finding Gardy, promising the dad, was a psychic. So did Tim actually rescue kids that you met with the help of a psychic? No. The kids, they didn't find Gardy, but the kids that they took from one orphanage to another, those children ended up being raped, several of them, and needing abortions. That's from OUR's own testimony that I referenced in that video. So did Tim save any kids? No. He profited off of moving them to an orphanage that he knew had sexual abuse within it. Did he care? No, because the film had already been made, and the fundraising that he got off of that orphanage by having it, as he called it, an OUR aftercare center, because he thinks he technically saved kids and moved them there. If kids get raped and need abortions at your aftercare centers, you're not a fucking child rescuer. You, whatever children, Ocean Mikey, that you want to say that he rescued, it is now moot. It's now defunct. If the children in your aftercare organizations that you make films about, that you profit off of, get raped, you need to go away for a long time and shut the fuck up that you have ever done anything to save kids, because you don't care about the actual circumstances you're placing them in. Bottom line, you're making films about their smiling, happy faces, but if they need abortions because of the staff members there and they're eating potatoes that have maggots in them while you are flying around in first class airplanes doing couples ruse, $50,000 a piece organizations on a weekend, you are not after saving kids. They are long in your rearview mirror when you've moved on to your next project and your next child to exploit. So when an LDS missionary comes to my door and they say, "Hi, I'm a representative of Jesus Christ," when people say things, is that actually true? No, it's a label, because they have an objective and a mission by giving you that label. When Tim, as Ocean Mikey said here in the comments, and OUR sets up booths to tell the public, these are children that I rescued, the truth behind their rescues could be anything that they want it to be. It could be from the spectrum of they were going to be in this hellhole until Tim Ballard and OUR came in and saved them, all the way to they could be paid actors. There is a spectrum because of that label. And when we already know what kind of man Tim Ballard is, as we've just explained, we need to look at it with extreme amounts of scrutiny. So I would err more on the side of Tim Ballard, as Ocean Mikey just said. I am not saying he's a perfect guy, but he definitely rescued kids. I'm saying he is an extremely evil, narcissistic, manipulative person from the evidence that I just showed. And if you're coming in this with the belief that because you met someone that was labeled as a child that was rescued by Tim without applying the evidence and the knowledge that we've spoken about, you are being played by him, and you have no integrity and conviction to stand with actual sex trafficking victims if you're still believing the labels that he puts on people for his own self-aggrandizement. Make sense? So I don't know who those kids were that you met. They could be anything. But what we do know is that Tim uses them as props and doesn't give a fuck about kids.
Yeah, well said. And even if some kids were rescued, that doesn't give him a license to go sexually assault women and be okay with it. You know, there isn't this zero sum where you do so much good, it justifies doing evil and hurting people. Like that's not how the world works. That's not how morality and ethics work. Like, you can do some good things, but that doesn't give you a pass to hurt people. And in some people's minds,
analogy again.
Yeah, some people's minds it does. It's just the ends justify the means. I don't believe that's true.
I'm trying to, there we go. Thanks for the $10 super chat. Uncle Rustable is always coming through for us. Love what you guys are doing. Reminder to share social handles so I can follow you. In the description below are all of my links: TikTok, Instagram, Substack. I just posted a Substack article last night that's really fun. It's called How Taylor Swift Helped Me Leave Mormonism. You'll love it. Ryan also has a Substack that's linked down in the description as well. Go follow Ryan, support him on Substack. Thanks, guys. All right. Let's see. Ocean Mikey said, Tim admits some of the orphanages he took the kids ended up being corrupt. That's not new news.
Did he admit that?
I'm not sure where he's admitted that because
yeah, I haven't seen that. Here, share Ocean Mikey.
Yeah, I would
share
like
where
to see
he
that
admitted
evidence.
that.
If he's admitted that. I would be all over that. I have seen video of him being chased by the police in South America trying to get the kids back. He just rescued. You know, I've read the book Twilight and actually haven't, but go with me on this analogy. And vampires are also real. Like, I don't, unless you, you're talking about, I don't know, like
Footage
footage can be just about anything.
Yeah, I got footage of me running from Bigfoot, so Bigfoot must be real too. It's easy to do.
Ocean Mikey said, I agree, but in my opinion, when you are trying to rescue kids but make some mistakes, you should get some grace. Ocean Mikey, how can I say this any more clear? He's never been about rescuing any fucking kids. He started an LLC to be a media arm of his nonprofit to feed it footage so that he could propagandize you. I guess it worked. To collect the footage on his raid so that he could fundraise with that footage for OUR, but make money off of the footage by making films. When you start your child rescue operations with that business model, rescuing kids was never the sole objective. It was making money. All right. So with everything that I just said about kids being raped in his aftercare centers, these are not mistakes. These are hundreds, if not thousands of real people's lives that Tim Ballard has put in danger for his own profit motives. Full stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Ballard is very passionate about saving kids as long as he can get money from it and gets all the credit. Those two things come before the saving kids. The saving kids is the means to those two things. So I don't know.
He said,
I don't know.
There is a movie, Sage's Rescue, that is not out yet that I have seen that he talks about this. This is also when he was chased by the police. This is absolutely Tim. This is who else has insider footage like that? Who would spend time watching it? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
right,
I'd also like
Coach
to
Mikey,
see.
you're welcome to stay.
We'll
You're welcome
interview
to
you
stay.
on the podcast. Yeah,
We'll interview
Appreciate
you.
We'll interview you. If you're willing to put your face and your actual name behind your statements, then you'll have my respect, and I'll believe you a little bit more.
For sure.
You want to do that? We'll give you a platform. You come talk.
That's actually a good thing. Yeah, I really want that. I'm actually looking for, this is my advertisement. We'll get back into the clips in a second. I am looking for somebody to make a podcast with, who either, is LDS, who has been a supporter of Tim Ballard and is trying to sort out this information and doesn't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, or, staunchly believes that he's still a good guy, somebody that we can have a discussion with. I will try to say the word F word a little bit, less and be respectful, but
I'm going to make a drinking game out of it.
I want to be able to actually engage with people's arguments like this. So Ocean Mikey, you are welcome to come on the podcast. If you want to put your face and your name out there, we would love to have you. I could pay you for your time. So if you know somebody in your inner circle, anybody listening out there where you're like, oh, so-and-so would be perfect for this. I don't want to have to go ask Kwaku. That's my next. I have a couple people in mind, but
yeah, if you're still Tim Ballard fanboy and want to defend him, let's talk. Totally. Let's talk. We'll be nice. We're not going to try. We're not.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
We're not trying to embarrass anybody. That's not the whole point of this. It's to get the complete picture that we possibly can, but nobody's coming forward to defend Tim, and so we just got to go with what we got. And this is what we got. And this is so. Yeah, please come on, reach out.
Because it's, Ryan, hear me out. It is statistically impossible that Tim Ballard is not watching this right now. His kid could be like dying in the hospital and he would make sure that he knows what is being said about him online.
Yeah, and he's actually probably enjoying it because he's that much of a glutton for press. He loves people talking about him. He would sit on our buses and read negative book reviews. I mean, book reviews like all day long. He'd just like for hours read people talking about his book, and a lot of people ripping it apart like that it's revisionist history, that's total fiction, and that he shouldn't, we should give him the time of day. And then he'd like mock them for whatever reason. And he loves being talked about. And I hate that I'm contributing to the ether of talking about Tim because he wants to be relevant so bad. And but we got to do it. So yeah, Tim, if you're in the chat, if you're watching, what's up, man? How's it going? Hope it's not going very well for you.
Not going well.
I don't think it is.
He says, and I'm sorry for taking up a ton of the podcast. I have just seen quite a bit of info of all of this.
Hey, send it to our email.
Send it. Yeah. But so far what you're saying, please engage with my arguments instead of adding more comments, because what I'm saying I think makes perfect sense, that he was never after saving kids, and what you've seen is definitely part of his propaganda. Mm-hmm. But if you have something that is more solid than that, I am always being like, in Tim's pursuit to save kids, could he have saved a couple kids and you met them? Of course, sure. But to say that he just made some mistakes, but his overall intentions are good, that is where we got to cut the crap. Okay. All right. Let's get back into it. I lost my notes, but let's see what this clip says. If it would ever
the severe abuse that happened by these people. And so back at Boston, I'm reading this lie. I know it's a lie. It's ridiculous. My wife telling me, we're laughing. Like they're trying to bait me into saying something bad about the church. And I'm not going to do it. Ha, ha, ha. But I just thought to myself, just in case, I'm going to call the person who is the director of reputational management for the church. Because I know that if someone in the church, some deep state elements, push this out to the public, I knew that the disaster it would be reputationally once we have this day, once we're sitting here on the Day of Atonement 2 years later telling the story, I knew it'd be a disaster for them. And so I called him. His name's Derek Westra. And I made sure, as I did on everything I talked to you about, I'm a criminal investigator by trade. Everything I say is documented. Everything I say has witnesses. Everything. So just know that. So I had a witness on the phone with me, Ken, who took me.
Do you notice whose name was bleeped out there?
It wasn't Ken Krogh, was it?
Yes.
Like, why did he bleep his name out? Yeah, he didn't bleep that out very good at all. Yeah, he's just
documents, evidence. Ken Krogh, please step forward. The mic is yours. Evidence. We're waiting.
Dude, Ken Krogh.
We don't have time to get into who that guy is, but
yeah, we don't.
Okay.
Everything. So just know that. So I had a witness on the phone with me, Ken, who took notes. This was late in the evening, Eastern Standard Time. Derek Westra gets on the phone, and he, like me, is kind of laughing at this. He says, there's no way this came from the church, Tim. And he gave me 3 reasons why he knew. 1, he said it's a lie and the church would never lie about one of its members. 2, he said Elder Ballard wouldn't just betray you in violation of every scripture and decency. And 3, he said Doug Anderson would never defame a member of the church without talking to me, because I am the director of reputational management and this would be my mess to clean up someday.
And long story short, Ryan has talked to Derek Westra on the phone and said, yeah, it did come from the church.
Yep. Yeah. Super nice guy. He's in charge of reputation management. While it's under the PR department or umbrella, he doesn't necessarily issue the press statements. And so I think what Tim is talking about happened like within 24 hours of the Vice News article hitting.
Yeah, when everyone was so confused.
Derek didn't know about that. He didn't know. He hadn't read it or something. I don't know what the story is there, but then he actually relayed to me the same story that he had to go and check with his boss or with Doug Anderson as like, did this and checked and double checked and verified, did this come from the top? Did this come from, and he told me specifically, yeah, he was told that came from Elder Ballard's office. So there you go.
Elder Ballard's office?
Yeah. From Elder Ballard, from Elder Ballard's office. Yeah. Which is issuing statements for Elder Ballard when he was still alive. I go, hate even putting that out there, because then I guess Tim will say, well, then the real deep state person is Elder Ballard's personal secretary. Maybe it was her. Actually, I know her name. I don't have it on the top of my head. I have it in.
You've been in those offices. You've met with her probably.
I've met her. Yeah, really nice lady. Anyways,
of Ryan with Elder Ballard and Tim Ballard from circa what year?
2016.
There you go.
Yeah.
If I had that picture handy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another.
And this would be my mess to clean up someday. I'm not just any run-of-the-mill member. I've written books in defense of the gospel, blood, sweat, and tears for the gospel. I've paid tithing righteously, continuously. Even to this day, I haven't stopped. Okay? They can't stop me from reading my covenants with a lie. Right? I still wear my garments, guys. I take the sacrament. Call the police if you'd like. It's not going to work. I did not commit these crimes. I did not commit these moral accusations. The great Satan is the accuser. Eduardo Verástegui is also suing, the producer of Sound of Freedom, potentially the next president of Mexico. This will shake, rattle, and roll the world, what they've done to me, because it wasn't to me. It was to the children of the world.
It sure seems like it was done to you, Tim.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the statement was about you. It wasn't. Yeah, the statement was about you, Tim. It wasn't about the children of the world that the Mormon Church hates. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is hilarious. You notice also in there that he showed a picture of the sacrament and it was a Catholic wafer.
Like, oh, I didn't notice that.
You notice that? Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to appeal to Mormons, but dude, hire a new editor. I guess
I still wear my garments and it's like Catholic robes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Catholic wafer. Like, talk about, like, there's mansplaining, but then there's like righteous splaining. What is that called? Like virtue signaling. That's what it is. Virtue signaling. I wear my garments. I still take the sacrament. He's not supposed to, by the way. That's like, not supposed to. That
is blasphemous.
He goes to the temple and he says, and sits in the lobby while he waits for his wife. He says he still pays his tithing. Like, how does that work? Like, you have to be a member. Anyways, it's
that
like
would be really interesting. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, his wife is still a member, so she pays the tithing that he earns.
Oh, that's how he does it. That's how he does it. Right. He goes through her probably.
That's interesting, huh?
He doesn't want to lose out on those blessings in heaven that he gets, I guess, from his tithing payments. But yeah, I guess that tithing payment was going to the salaries of Doug Anderson, who denounced him. How do you mental gymnastics your way out of that one? I don't know. But it's all, they're hurting the children. That's what he wants us to make sure that understand. That statement only hurts the children. It's an attack on children because he is the rescuer and sole provider for the children of the world.
Nobody else could help children but him.
Sound of Freedom 2 was already scripted. It would have been filmed by now. It would have made at least $250 million.
See, isn't that weird that he says that they're casting and like they just wrote the Sound of Freedom 2 based on all of the characters that he just mentioned? Hopefully you and I are in it. So was it already written and they would have already made it, or is it now being written? Contradiction.
And rescued countless lives, but for Doug Anderson, but for the PR committee, but for the stake president, but for David Jordan. I'll get to him. But for all of them. Sound of Freedom Act was destroyed. The kids weren't rescued at the border. The child sex ritual abuse wasn't uncovered.
Dude,
so man. Dumb. Ted,
so dumb.
Wasn't uncovered.
Man, I really wanted to say.
Me. I was right about to get to that. It was at the top of my to-do pile for the last 10 years.
I know. I was going to go save so many kids, but then the guy at Jiffy Lube doing my oil change wouldn't apply the coupon that I had because it expired. And it's just like money that could have gone to save kids. Damn it. Oh, does he not know how many that he's hurting kids?
I could riff on this. Good riff, though. Good riff. Yep.
It's all about the kids.
Nice comment from Miss Fancy Pants. What kind of loser comes to attack Carah? I just want... Ocean Mikey did say something about, he's like, I don't know everything. What does he say? I freely admit I could be getting the wool over my eyes on this situation. I'm just sharing an opposing opinion. I'm not trying to say I'm 100% correct. So sorry if it came off that way.
Damn,
you're sharing an opposing
Tim.
opinion. Yeah, it's not Tim. Tim would never say that. But
he'd never say that.
that's fine with sharing an opposing opinion, but it's like you have to take into account what we're also saying back to you. Like, but thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate opposing opinions because he represents what a lot of people believe, that Tim has rescued 7,000 kids and he's a righteous dude and he's doing God's work. So yeah, those people still believe that, and there is elements of those that are based on some true events and true facts and stuff. So yeah, we appreciate that opposing opinion.
It's like, Ocean Mikey, do you know about the Dunning-Kruger effect that we explained?
Mm-hmm.
It's that sometimes you're at the top of this little valley where you just don't know what you don't know up here. You have a lot of ideas and confidence because your whole world is kind of only like looking through this. It's just not that big. And I'm not saying this to be condescending. I'm just saying that is the effect of our human psyche, that we are overly confident when we're in a position where we don't know what we don't know yet. So watch all of my videos, compare them with your own knowledge. Try not to fall into any logical fallacies. Understand how propaganda is used. Are you somebody who's been propagandized to, perhaps, and sort out the truth of this matter? Just keep in mind, the more knowledge that you have, sometimes you realize, oh, there's a long way to go before I fully comprehend something. That's all I'm saying.
I'll give you an example of how the Dunning-Kruger effect, how I lived through that. I started investigating Book of Mormon archaeology and met with some researchers that were finding parallels between the Book of Mormon and the archaeology of the Midwest. And I was like, this is really interesting. I started learning about it, and my confidence in the Book of Mormon started going up and up and up. Higher confidence, the more I gained knowledge. And then it got to the point where I started finding contradictions to those theories. And then that's where the graph goes. Then my confidence started, the more I learned that my confidence started going down, 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 down. And then it picks up at the very end to where you have a lot of knowledge on the subject and your confidence is high again. So a perfect example of this Dunning-Kruger effect is Rod Meldrum. He knows just enough. He knows a little bit more than most people on certain given subjects, which allows him to talk confidently about it. But if you dig deep, he really doesn't know jack shit about any of it on a level that would warrant any sort of recommendation as an authority on anything. And that's the same thing that we're going through with Tim. Like, everybody had a little bit of knowledge about Tim and it all looks good, but the more that you dive into this, the more you learn about him, your confidence of him being who he claims he is should start tanking pretty fast. And so
we got another super chat. Uncle Rustables, thank you again for the $10. Tim said in episode 1 that he never had intercourse outside of marriage, but he didn't say he didn't do other sexual things to the victims. Still grounds for excommunication. Also, I don't believe him. Yes. It's one of those lies by omission.
Yeah.
Of like, I never had sexual intercourse with that woman.
He
had
said
a cigar,
specifically, he said, I'm accused of having penetrative sex with somebody other than my wife. He's getting very specific with the semantics of that. And I think by by your admission, this is great by both of you. Yeah, that's admitting that he was involved in other sexual acts that may not have been penetrative sex, but he did have penetrative sex by the allegations, of course, as well. So,
and if I may very calmly and rationally share some information to the audience that got me in trouble before, Ryan, just wave your hands if you want me to stop. My true joke about that is that, as it's been reported to me, his member is of a inadequate size, quite smaller than your imagination would even drum up. And Tim has also explained that he would use this one type of sexual position with his couple's ruse partners so that the traffickers would think that he was having penetrative sex with them. But he's probably like, I don't know, taking credit for the old like tuck that like trans people have been doing for millennia. I don't know, but not very hard to not have penetrative sex is what I'm saying. Would he, if he could reach the labia? Probably. I just don't think he has the equipment. So him being mad, like, I never had penetrative sex. How dare you lie and say that? He's thinking in his head, gosh, golly, I tried. I wish I could have. The 7 kids that he had with Catherine, oh, those were tough to get the boys on in there to find the egg. Trust me, is what he's thinking. Like, that is the hardest thing I've ever done, was having penetrative sex. How much I wish I could have, but I didn't. I absolutely didn't. And you can tell. And then he would unzip his pants. That's how I imagine it. Most of what I just said is true, though.
It's true because of police reports that were describing what some women saw. He's got a small dick. That's what's in there. Okay. Don't shoot the messenger.
Allegedly.
Yeah. But it's in the public record.
If there was ever a Napoleon complex out there for us to study in history books, this would be it. Come on, Timmy, disprove the rumors. Another thing I don't need to investigate is Timmy dick pics. So the last thing I want to have to go look through. Okay. Next clip.
But for all of them, Sound of Freedom Act was destroyed. The kids weren't rescued at the border. The child sex ritual abuse wasn't uncovered. I want to say something about that before I turn back to the story in Boston. This is very important. A member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles once came to me sometime before the excommunication and said, Tim, don't go down the rabbit hole. This after I presented him an abundance of evidence about satanic ritual abuse in the church ranks and being covered up. Don't go down this rabbit hole, he said. And I answered to Jesus, I answered to no man. And I knew that Jesus would condemn me if I didn't go down this rabbit hole. So I continued. They knew that. They knew that Senator Ballard would expose that with the power of President Trump and the power of Sound of Freedom behind me.
I have too much to say. I'm so angry right now. Where do I just need to go, okay? With the power of President Trump, who's covering up the Epstein files right now, who has tried everything to delay the release of the Epstein files, do you think the power of President Trump is just super excited to expose pedophiles in this country? Like, he knows he's not going to be on the list within the Mormon Church, but even Trump is like, I don't know, there could be a possible situation. Tim Ballard is preaching to an audience that he knows full well will eat up every little thing that he says. But when we apply any kind of like realistic critique to this, it completely all falls apart. Okay. The Sound of Freedom Act that he's talking about here, as we discussed in episode 1 last week, it has been revealed by Damian Moore, an investigative journalist who's covered Tim Ballard for years, that the Sound of Freedom Act from, I think, Alabama had nothing to do with Tim, okay? The movie came out. They said, yeah, let's try to combat sex trafficking in our state. We'll slap the name Sound of Freedom Act on it because people have heard of that movie. Tim Ballard had no involvement in bringing that bill to the floor whatsoever, but he's taking full credit for it. And then using that as part of his argument that the church didn't want that act to move forward. Like, he doesn't know that I'm going to be saying this into a microphone and a camera, but if the microphone would stay still, but everything he's saying is just bolstering in his mind this army, this force of what he's going to be combating, this institution of the LDS Church with all of its child ritual abuse within it, that he has been trying to get back within this church for the last 2 years, but was denied. And we don't have time to go through all of the reasons why we think that he's even using child sexual abuse now as opposed to talking about it 2 years ago. But the bottom line is, dude, this is an indictment on you, that you wanted to get back into this church for the last 2 years while claiming that you talked to an apostle about its child ritual abuse within it. You knew about it at the southern border, that more kids are being funneled into Utah than anyone else. Those are Tim's claims. Still remained in the church, still tried to convert people to come into this church all the way up until like last month. Now he's talking about all of this and saying that the church wanted to stop the Sound of Freedom Act. The church excommunicated me because they didn't want me to expose all this stuff. The church said, don't go down that rabbit hole when I had brought, a bunch of evidence to the forefront. What evidence? Show us the evidence or shut the fuck up, because this entire thing is just utilizing the trauma of real children, of the narrative that you are the guy to save them. Unless you show us the saved kids, unless you show us the receipts, unless you show us the abundance of evidence, all of this is just saving your own heroic character as you fall from grace. That's all that it is. Last point I want to make is there is this wacky, crazy woman that I have just been had to unfortunately follow on Instagram that goes by House of Habit. I don't know what her real name is offhand, but she interviewed Tim Ballard a couple weeks ago. And I tried listening to the whole interview. I wanted to do a response to it. This one came first, more important. The whole interview just drives me insane though. And she's an outsider. She's got like 1.5 million followers on Instagram. She supports Ghislaine Maxwell, if that makes any sense at all. And she's what people have just been describing to me as like a Trump sycophant and a Tim Ballard supporter. And in this interview, what I find interesting is she, as an outsider, is like, oh, learning all this stuff for the first time. And he brings up the child satanic ritual abuse within the Mormon Church. And she's like, oh, like, how long have you known about this? And what was the evidence? Tim completely sidesteps the obvious question. And she's a supporter of his. She's like, wow, how long have you known about this? Tim has admitted that he's known about this since he was in the Department of Homeland Security. That's a freaking long time. And then second of all, she asks, oh, like, what's the evidence for it? So what Tim just said was that he brought an abundant, like with the words he described, what was it? Like he brought an abundance of
evidence, yeah.
To the apostle, and they said, don't go, Quorum of the 12, and said, we need to do something about this. We don't know when this conversation supposedly took place, but what is his abundance of evidence? Okay. When she asks him in this podcast last week, what evidence do you have from this? The single and only piece of evidence that he brings up is the 1990 Glenn Pace memo, which we discussed in our previous podcast explanations of all of this. When you were being confronted with, please, savor of sex trafficked kids, tell us about the satanic ritual abuse. Tell us about how long you've known about it. What is your abundance of evidence? The only thing he points to is the Glenn Pace memo from 1990. Nothing else. Nothing else. It shows that even if he pretended to care about this satanic ritual abuse, which I don't think he does, he could go watch Jason Preston's podcast and give a couple more examples. He could go actually interview and try to fight for this plight of these ritually abused children within the LDS Church. He doesn't done any of that. He wants to use this banner as this flashy headline of satanic ritual abuse without actually filling out the body of the essay with evidence or documents, with anything. He just uses that over and over again. And when confronted with it, he has nothing. So that's how you can tell that he's lying, that he didn't talk to the LDS Church apostles and present an abundance of evidence about satanic ritual abuse. I call bullshit on that, because when he is asked in recent podcasts from an outsider to tell him, he has nothing. He is only using this satanic ritual abuse, which I have not said to what degree I believe it's true or not true. I just go with believing victims who, systemic it is, I don't know. But what it's proving is that Tim is using the idea of abuse of children, just like he has used it since the very get-go, as a prop in his narrative to build an army that will get behind him, thinking that he's actually doing something. This has nothing to do with victims. It has everything to do with defending himself. And he is calling out the institution he just barely tried to spend 2 years fighting and clawing his way back into, to call them satanic ritual abusers. Every single thing that Tim does is in the pursuit of him and propping up himself. He does not care, or else he would investigate this and have some evidence.
Yep. Feel a little bit better? Got that out?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Me neither. I'm not feeling better either. I know. Yeah.
Bingo.
I'm getting more angry, because the more right you are, the more angry I'm at. That's supposed to be therapeutic. It's not.
I'm a champ. I gotta take this off. Okay. Next, or I think I didn't even finish that clip. Man, he makes me so mad.
He knew that.
And from a human trafficking standpoint, and we find mostly women, but children very big also. But it's women and children. Nobody's seen like I think I can say this, that nobody's ever seen it like it is today.
So they had plenty of reason.
How badly do you guys want me to go? Chat, vote. How badly do you want me to rant on what Donald Trump just said? Never seen it like it was today. It's very bigly. It's very huge. Yeah, well, I don't know. When you're best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 10 years and Trump has offered Epstein a job in his first administration, Epstein has a freaking desk for the last 2 decades at Harvard University. And every which way possible, Trump has afforded Epstein, for a more politer word, to be in his inner circles. So, yeah, if anyone could speak to the validity that sex trafficking is bigger now than it ever has been before, yeah, it would be the guy who runs a teenage modeling agency and a beauty pageant that is also been accused of funneling women and children into sex trafficked situations. So if anyone were to say, I have never seen as much sex trafficking as I have right now, I think it's going to be the billionaire who is in charge of our government right now, who is suppressing the documents that would show his collaboration with the world's most infamous sex trafficker, the CEO of Elite Sex Crimes Incorporated, Jeffrey Epstein, which he was best friends for 10 years. So yeah, Trump is definitely the one to know and have firsthand knowledge of that.
Yeah, Tim is using Trump as a prop to try and give him credibility. Meanwhile, Trump, the jury, I guess, is still out in a lot of people's minds. But Trump right now is at the forefront of a cover-up of the largest, most powerful sex trafficking ring in our country's history that's been exposed. So Tim is associating himself with him right now as like, I don't know. Does you not see how I don't think that helps your case? It doesn't help your case. But he's got a clip of him talking with Trump. So he's trying to regain credibility. There you go.
Yeah. I wish it were a different situation, but unfortunately it's not. Okay.
To make sure I couldn't win. Now this is a problem.
I'm sorry to finish that clip. To make sure he couldn't win. Okay, next clip.
Is that nobody's ever seen it like it is today.
So they had plenty of reason to make sure I couldn't win. Now this is a problem though. It's a big, big, big criminal problem. I had already announced I was running for Senate just weeks before the Doug Anderson lie came out. I was running for Senate. Do you know there's such a thing as federal election law? Do you know what happens when a 501c3 nonprofit meddles in an election? That's criminal. And that criminal theory gets even more pronounced and more significant when you consider the fact that when the lie came out to Vice magazine, it included that Tim Ballard had never done projects associated with the church. Now the news reported right away, but they didn't go, you understand, the church and government control the media, right? So when they came out, they used the fact that the church had deleted over 70 references to articles about me as a way to kind of punish me. That's not what they actually were doing. They were allegedly committing crimes of evidence tampering. Can you imagine how bad this hit job was performed by Doug Anderson and his crew, whoever else was involved? Because what they did was they lied to you about the fact that I had never done projects associated with the church. And on the very same day, they were caught deleting references to those very projects. Same day. They didn't even wait for a week to give themselves a little plausible deniability. This is not just a civil liability they carry. This is now, because it's conspiracy, it's RICO, it's a conspiracy against the United States government and the people of the United States who wanted this Sound of Freedom Act to go forward. It's now evidence tampering, criminal evidence tampering, and it will be reviewed.
And it will be, I love the way he ended that. It's criminal and it will be reviewed. Wow.
On my YouTube channel and my Instagram.
And it will be thoroughly filed in a cabinet. So basically what Tim's describing there, if we haven't made it clear already, the LDS Church has it's a $300 billion corporation. Think of it like that. It has many different arms and industries within it. And one of them is the publishing arm. That's Deseret Book, that's Deseret News. And so when the statement came out from the church, printed in Vice News, it was such a big deal, obviously, that then many other publications within Utah and around the world were reprinting that statement. And the church's own publishing arm of Deseret News printed an article about it and republished that statement that specifically says Tim Ballard, the church is claiming that Tim Ballard never did any projects associated with the church, which, as we have already stated, is a complete lie. My belief is they only said that because of how insane the crimes are that they knew were going to come out of what Tim did, that they wanted to distance themselves, even if it was a lie. So Deseret News, in saying that and publishing on its website, I don't know if it was like that same day or 28 hours before or 24 hours before, but all of the associations with Tim Ballard, if you type in his name and all of the projects that you could have looked up on Deseret News' website, were all taken down. And so that's something that we're all in agreement. Tim, Ryan, me, you, audience, just the LDS Church wants us to not realize that. It's very obvious, though, that the very news publishing arm of the church denouncing Tim is claiming something that's false. However, Tim, I don't know if there's a legal expert in the chat, but claiming that now they are liable for RICO laws, for conspiracy. It's one thing just to say, because you did that, you defamed me, and now I can't go rescue kids because people won't give me money and they hate me. But he goes a step further. He says that now other countries won't let me in because of the church's statement to Vice News. ISIS has gotten a hold of it, and now they're harassing me. And now they're actually not only prohibiting the rescue of thousands of children around the world, Tim is saying that they are liable for criminal investigation and, like, you know, a lawsuit from Tim. Did I summarize that pretty well? Yeah. I don't know if there's a legal expert out there, but I don't think that that's a case.
Yeah. And he adds that it's an attack against the U.S. people and the U.S. government. So now I guess he's a representative of the U.S. government as well. He's not. He's like, because they attacked me, I couldn't be a senator, which would have I would have done a Sound of Freedom Act that would have saved kids somehow. And so that statement stopped all of that. And it's an attack on the U.S. government. It's like, wow, you think you're important.
Yeah. Fun, huh? And people were asking, I just wanted to close up one loose thread about, people were asking about if Trump actually did sign the bill to release the Epstein files. And while he did, he originally said that they didn't exist or that they were a government hoax. And if they did exist, then it's only Democrats in it. And so there is kind of a MAGA civil war going on right now. And I'm kind of a political junkie. This is not usually what I talk about on this podcast. But as it relates to sex trafficking, I just want to get sex traffickers put in jail. I want to put pedos of any kind of wealth background put behind bars and their crimes exposed. If I if the files came out and it exposed Bill Clinton, oh no, I'd have to get rid of all of my Bill Clinton hats and merch and banners and bumper stickers. That is a joke because, of course, I do not have allegiance to Bill Clinton or any kind of politician. But unfortunately, there are people who do have that kind of allegiance to Trump. And if possible, could be seen to have been doing sex crimes with children and sex trafficking, if that came out in the Epstein files, people, the same way they defend Tim, that he couldn't possibly have done this, and there's some explanation, people will go on that rant. So the reason I bring this up is simply to say there are things going on within our government right now, and people of America the majority of them want the Epstein files released. In polls. So I'm just speaking on behalf of victims, speaking on behalf of what the polls show, that we want to get out the truth. And Trump has either called them a hoax or there's been investigative journalism through what's the guy who does undercover work, Project Veritas, where they have people within the government caught on camera saying that they redacted the files and that they took out all of the Republicans' names. He was on this date with a Hinge person who was actually a reporter. So Project Veritas, who is a very Republican right-leaning organization, also wants the Epstein files out and feel very lied to that they elected Trump on the basis that he was going to do X, Y, and Z thing, including release the Epstein files. Very obvious that Epstein didn't kill himself, and Epstein died within Trump's first administration. A lot of spooky things going on. So the Trump signing the Epstein files after many different stories about what they were to him, if they were a Democratic hoax, if they existed at all. Pam Bondi said that she had the files on her desk, and then the next day she says the files don't exist. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, says that the case is all clear. There's nothing to release in there. However, we have Jeffrey Epstein's estate just released, 20,000 emails 2 weeks ago, and people have put them online. And the number one name that comes up more than anyone in connection to Jeffrey Epstein is Donald Trump. And
I think 1,600 times.
There you go. Things like an email from Epstein's brother that says, do you still have the picture of Trump blowing Bubba? Or does Putin still have the, evidence of possible blackmail, which is what I think is actually going on. I think it's pretty obvious that Jeffrey Epstein was part of the Israeli CIA, part of Mossad, and that whether he worked for them exclusively or was a contractor, that Epstein was collecting blackmail on sexual blackmail through sex trafficking of children, an organization of which Donald Trump most likely participated in. And Donald Trump signing eventually to have these released. If they're going to be heavily redacted. That's already been.
Well, he only
stated,
agreed to. If I can jump in, he only came out and said, "Yeah, I want them released too." After all the votes shifted and they were going to be released regardless. Once it was clear that it was going to be unanimous in Congress that they're going to release the files, then he changed his tune. He's like, well, I want them to be released also. And I'm going to file also. Like, he fought it until it was going to happen anyways. And then he tried to jump on the side of transparency at the very last second when it was obvious. So that's pathetic.
Exactly.
But here we are.
Didn't you have, while we're on the subject, didn't you have some intel about that one senator who didn't sign the Epstein files to be released?
Yes. I'll try and find that and
Do
send
you
you
want to look that up?
Yeah,
And I can come back to you.
he has tied. Guess who? Timmy. All right.
Yeah. So
while
when
you're
everyone
playing a
said
clip, I'm gonna
there's
try and
one
find that, and
senator
I'll
who
send it.
didn't vote for the files to be released, and everyone's like, "Whoa, look into that guy's computer." You know, why is there a almost unanimous vote except for one person? What does that person have to hide?
Yeah.
And I made the point before that Tim, I don't know if he was a senator, would he vote to release the Epstein files? Like, he's not. There's nobody in this world who's made a case that they care more about the sex trafficking of kids than Tim Ballard. And with his platform right now, he has not said a goddamn word about it. That just goes to show if he was the senator of Utah that everyone's saying, or that he's saying that he was stopped from being because of this $10 million, this bag of bricks that was thrown at him, that they wanted to stop the Sound of Freedom Act. What the flip have you done, Tim Ballard, as a not senator to help sex traffic kids? Because that's the number one subject and topic, you know, of the government right now. What victims are standing on Capitol Hill screaming into the void to have somebody pay attention. And Tim Ballard is out here making documentaries about himself and how he's been wronged. So you don't deserve to be our senator for a lot of reasons, Tim. But when sex trafficking is put to the forefront, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
Finish now.
They said nobody's ever seen it like it is today.
So they had plenty of reason to make sure I couldn't win. Now this is a problem, though. It's a big, big, big criminal problem. I had already announced I was running for Senate just weeks before the Doug Anderson lie came out. I was running for Senate. Do you know there's such a thing as federal election law? Do you know what happens when a 501c3 nonprofit meddles in an election?
I don't, but you're going to tell us, aren't you, Tim?
Yeah.
Will be reviewed. I am not a bad man for exposing people who worked evil acts and lied in the pursuit of rescuing God's children. I am not a bad man for exposing people who lie to hurt children, no matter who they are or what seat they sit in. I am a bad man if I do not. And so I will. Under Jesus Christ, I will. I answer to him. And so I will do this. I will expose this. The story gets worse, you see, because I unmasked Doug Anderson and crew. The minute Derek Wester called back to I can't believe this, I was wrong. I can't believe this, I was wrong. It was them. It was the church.
The Catholic Church.
When I learned that, I was standing at the Monument for the Forefathers in Plymouth, Massachusetts, bearing testimony of the Book of Mormon. See, just like they try to hit me on the Day of Atonement, this is Jesus punching back right away, defending his innocent people, defending his children. He put me there. I could have been anywhere, but I was there testifying of him. You know what I did? I knew it was them, but I said, there's no way it's them. They would never do something so devilish. They would never violate what Jesus taught us on the Sermon on the Mount, to not go to your brother first. Matthew 5, Matthew 18, the principles of the Constitution even.
Innocent until proven guilty.
They didn't whisper a thing to me. And so I...
Hold up. Innocent until proven guilty is not in the Bible.
Yeah. It's not in
like,
the Constitution either.
Cast you without sin, cast the first stone. Did he just say innocent until proven guilty and imply that that is in the Bible? That's God's law. Wow. And he's also using so much Catholic imagery.
Yeah, because AI.
You think it's AI? I guess it could be.
Yeah, AI edited it, I'm sure. Yeah, he doesn't have a real editor, I don't think. Or AI is just coming up with stock footage of a church.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Wafer or whatever. But whatever.
Wow. The production quality has really gone down, Tim.
Said it on camera, and I told the person, I said, hold your phone up and send this to Fox 13. I began to unmask them in the minutes after they tried to scheme against me.
I tried to unmask them. I am the courageous warrior. I knew that this couldn't be from my church, and I stood in front of the monuments backed by Jesus, and I said, film this, because I am wearing my tightest skinny jeans.
Skinny jeans. I knew you were going to say that.
Thanks. Predictable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's distracting. His skinny jeans are so tight. It's distracting. His angry rant was distracting. Yeah. So
We've never just like watched that whole rant and just commented on it, but maybe for another day. And
yeah, that'd be a good one. We should probably.
Okay.
How much of this explanation is left?
Let's find out. Play.
Part two? Yeah.
Yeah. We are coming towards the
I
end.
began to unmask them in the minutes after they tried to scheme against me.
So this is destroying, this is breaking up my family like you can't believe. My children are being harassed right now.
And what they do, I theorized that the crew panicked. They had to go beyond Vice. They had to make it more credible. So they sent it to their own media arm, to Deseret News, to KSL, who dutifully reported under the order of the lukewarm. Now that was a big mistake. That's why I'm suing Deseret Enterprises. Because when they read that statement, they knew it was a lie. The news agencies can't report something that we know that they know is a lie. Now, how do I know that they knew? Because my projects associated with the church were with them. It was under them. It was under Sherry Dew. It was under Deseret News. And they reported on it over and over and over again. Those were the references they deleted on September 15th. Over 70 of them. Criminal evidence tampering, possibly. And so they stand without excuse. They knew they were putting forth a lie, but hey, someone told me to do it that has a red seat at conference. That's not the way this works, guys. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. That's the plan of salvation. This isn't Satan's plan. You might think it is. They've tricked you into thinking it is because that's what they like, control. Jesus gives agency. You always have a choice, and you chose poorly. And not only did you participate in possibly criminal activity and evidence tampering and defamation and business interference, but also consider the fact that the parent company, Doug Anderson, PR committee, sends a lie to their media arm. The media arm, oh, that thing went viral, as you wanted. They actually financially gained on their lie because they own the media. Do you see how devastating this is? Do you see how bad this is?
He literally is making a point to say that they gained financially by posting the Deseret News article about Tim's denunciation. It would actually be more suspicious if they didn't post about that, like because they wanted clicks. They profited from that.
I know. Wow, this is Tim's lawyer brain, which isn't fully developed. Like putting out these arguments, like because their statement went viral and they own media companies, they personally profited from the ad revenue on the clicks on those media companies from the viral posts that they put out there. Like,
yeah, that's kind of what Russell Brunson's point was, basically. Like, all right, we're almost done, guys. And then we'll have our final thoughts, which you don't want to miss.
They actually financially gain on their lie because they own the media. Do you see how devastating this is? Do you see how bad this is? The question is why? Why go 200 million miles outside of your scripture and your policy to do this to me? This isn't about repentance. This stake president's lying to you, telling to me, this is about your soul, son. I'll get to that later. And I'll tell you, it wasn't about that. They didn't care about my soul. This was a PR hit. What are they hiding? Were they being extorted? These lawfare warriors, Rasmussen, Mortensen, they're going to jail. Okay, we caught them. They will be going to jail in multiple jurisdictions.
That is such an insane claim. The lawyers for representing the women, he says, we caught them. They're going to jail. Prove it. Where's the documentation? What do you mean you caught them in what? Like, Tim, this is...
Yeah. It's so insane. Like, where is the conviction? Where have Rasmussen and where's the conviction? Where's the court case? Where's even the allegation? He's trying to get his lawyers are trying to get them disbarred for unethical law practices because
Yeah.
they can't win on the evidence of the case. So they're attacking the lawyers. They can't win on the evidence of Celeste Boris. So they try and get her case dismissed based on technicalities. Like Rasmussen and Mortensen, where's the conviction, Tim? Like they're going to jail. He's saying they're going to jail. They're not going to jail. Like they're practicing law in Salt Lake. Like,
I know.
He's just making shit up. Just totally making it up, pulling it out of thin air.
This is super like QAnon that like all of the dominoes are falling into place. Be like, what? Prove it. No, they're not.
They extorted my wife. When my wife came out publicly and defended me, boom, she was sued for sexual assault. When Matt Cooper refused the offer to sue me by the woman who told me he needs to do it, that woman a week later sued him for sexual assault. I believe they extorted Elder Ballard. I believe that if they didn't hit me, that Elder Ballard was going to be sued as well. But we'll find out through discovery, through deposition.
I'd love to find out who's they in this situation that they extorted Elder Ballard. And if Elder Ballard didn't distance himself with the statement from his office, from Tim, then they would have sued Elder Ballard. Do I believe that if Elder Ballard was still alive, would he have been subpoenaed, interviewed, and involved in a lawsuit, criminal investigation, all of that? 100%. Like the tipping point was the Vice News article and the investigations that were already going on and reporters bringing that to the forefront for the public. But much of this was already going on behind the scenes. There were already tons of allegations within OUR of sexual assault, and OUR distanced themselves. He never brings that up, that he was already kicked out of OUR because of the credible allegations and corroborated evidence of his couple's ruse partner talking about all the things that he did. He was a bad seed, even though he was the CEO and founder and had to get kicked out, right? So he conveniently he talks about being kicked out of the church, but he never talks about being kicked out of OUR.
Yeah.
But the church knew that they were going to probably have one of their senior apostles be involved in all of these seedy allegations and evidence that just kicked Tim Ballard out of OUR. They needed to get ahead of that and distance themselves a million light years away. So when he says, why would they act 200,000 miles outside of their jurisdiction? Why do you think, Tim? Because of the actions that you allegedly committed, it was time to push you as far away to the wayside as humanly possible. So coming back to my original question, though, is who is they were going to probably sue Elder Ballard? Is that even possible?
No, he said he believes they were trying to extort Elder Ballard. And I think they, in this context, includes Doug Anderson, Alan Mortensen, Suzette Rasmussen, the lawyers representing the women, and probably a whole bunch of other people. Maybe we're part of they. Maybe he thinks
we're just having to shoot from the hip here of who is this conspiracy of they were trying to extort. Yeah. I don't know. He's an expert on extortion and exploitation, so he would be the one to know. That's quite the claim.
And through criminal investigations, how far this went and who did.
Okay. I think that's actually the last clip. So he just basically says, everybody's going down.
Taking them
down. Wow, what a whirlwind that we have just experienced. If you didn't, I only just made a sound to react. I don't know if I paused on it, but that's one of the biggest things that he says in that last clip or the one before, that he will be suing Deseret
Industries, that's a thrift store.
Do not take away my thrifting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be suing Deseret Industries. I'm going to take them for all of the used couches that they have. The
media part.
The media arm of the church.
Deseret News.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, he's announcing that he's suing. But what's interesting to me is that he hasn't actually filed the lawsuit. He's announcing he's going to file a lawsuit in the same rant that he's threatening all these people. So, Deseret Enterprises, thank you. Yeah. So, like, is this all smoke and mirrors? Like, is he really going to do this? Is he really that dumb to take on one of the wealthiest corporations in the world? In a legal fight?
I want to see everyone get their information out there. I want to see a battle. But the church has stayed quite silent. I don't think Tim has been running his mouth in the last couple of years, and they have stayed pretty radio silent. Yeah, and totally. Every day I wonder if the next thing Tim says, does this mean the church is now going to have to issue some kind of other response to it? We'll see if he goes through with a lawsuit. He's acting like there's criminal, like RICO conspiracy things going on right now. It's so obnoxious. It's, for the millionth time, a million better things that Tim could be paying attention to right now. And if he's the person that says that he cares more about children than anyone else, he's sure to spend a lot of time talking about how he is going to make films about his enemies, who are Krista Casey and PR representatives for the church. Does this make sense to anyone? Like, there's gobs of Facebook followers who are still eating all of this up, which disheartens me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess this is only episode 2, so I assume this series that he's releasing, there's going to be more episodes, and he's going to name more names probably, and have more announcements and more unverifiable, elusive claims that are very ambiguous. So yeah.
Yeah, he said on his Facebook that he's going to be releasing all the rest of the episodes next week, all like in succession of each other. So guys, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, come back next week, and we will go through all of them in even further detail. If you want to see our videos and get some more information, our Patreon is a great way to give a recurring donation every month. That helps out our channel, helps pay me and Ryan, helps keep the lights on. I also have a donor box down below. There's recurring donations on there too. And our Venmo down below if you want to leave us a tip. If not, that's totally fine. If you are crunched for cash, leaving a comment for the algorithm, telling us how we can improve on these. I was just thinking today, Ryan, that so many of these podcasts, we know this stuff backwards and forwards, and it's difficult to know what to say, so we're not leaving new viewers behind and boring the old other ones. So wherever you come from, whatever part of the world, whatever your background is, we like pushback, and we also like suggestions on how we can improve. Yeah, feedback. So don't be shy. You can also reach us at our email. It's down below. We have a Timmy Did What email, and then I also have my email, thenuancehoe@gmail.com. So any comments or tips or insider knowledge, you can head over to our email and send us that there. And we also wanted to end this episode. If anyone is still around, please gather in and give everyone who is stood up to Tim Ballard and paid an enormous personal cost. We're talking about Celeste and Mike and Kira, and the list goes on and on. Of
Krista, Mary, Mike,
Sasha. Yeah, there's Sasha. People who want to be involved in this public fight, that wish that they could have their name Googled and a million things didn't have to come up, but they started by getting involved in OUR because they believed in Tim Ballard's mission of saving sex trafficked kids. And in that pursuit, were put in situations and harm was enacted upon them, and they have to live out the rest of their lives with a lot of threats and a lot of trauma now, and never knowing if they're going to get justice in the legal system, never knowing if they're going to win their lawsuits. But if you can do nothing else, just please leave a comment of support to the victims of Tim Ballard, the alleged victims, I shall say. You know them personally, and they're incredible people. They've been through so much, and there's victims of real perpetrators and bad guys out there. And standing up to that kind of evil comes at an enormous personal cost. And we always want to acknowledge that and do whatever we can to send our love and support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the most courageous people in the world, regular moms and women and men that aren't seeking any notoriety or anything else, but trying to make the world a better place. We see you, we hear you, we feel for you, our hearts go out to you, and we support you. So
exactly. Last super chat just came in. $10 towards recruiting Aubrey Plaza and Nick Offerman for the next Tim Ballard movie featuring enemies, Carah and Ryan. That's right.
Yeah.
If anyone has their email, I think a blonde Aubrey Plaza would do wonders.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
That totally works.
It's like two of the most like actors who are best known for like their characters being extremely disinterested in what's ever going on. So they would have to like act like us because we're the most interested in what's going on. But I think the overall vibe would fit. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone. And thank you, Richard, for moderating this chat. And I didn't even ask you to. I love you so much. Thank you guys for everyone who's stuck with us in this live stream that is, I don't know, time flies. Has it been a half an hour? I'm not keeping track.
4 hours.
Yikes. And we will see you guys next week. This has been the Timmy Did What?